Chapter 441 10 years. Please subscribe. The remaining 4 8th layer invincibles saw this. They immediately realized that the insect race must know crucial intelligence, or have deeper schemes. Galactic Star Lord, among our insect race's rating of numerous geniuses of the human long-lived generations, is ranked 7th, stated the shadowy figure of the bug hive. 7th. The 5 8th layer invincibles were shocked. The definition of genius by a peak clan like the insect race is extremely stringent, and their list of human geniuses considers many aspects. The ranking of the Galaxy Master at 7th means that every aspect about him must be terrifying. After all, it is very rare for those under 100 years to attain this ranking when they are only at the 8th layer. Galaxy Star Lord, your growth rate is too fast, the shadow of the bug hive stated without further explanation. Although the insect race lacks a virtual world and the 3 ultimate AI goddesses, they do have the top diviners. Through the confluence of numerous pieces of intelligence, they deduce the potential of the Galaxy Star Lord, which is in no way inferior to the offspring of supreme beings or human evolvers with special inheritances, and so on. Ultimately they placed him 7th on the list. In reality, these insect race diviners are unaware that the martial path evolutionary path was created by Lin Yuan. Xia Qin Supreme Being is aware of this fact and outright admitted that Lin Yuan's talent could rank in the top 20 or even top 10 in the history of human civilization. This ranking is in human historical context, whereas the insect race's list only pertains to the current generation of talents under long-live years old. There is no comparison between the two. If the insect race were to learn of Xia Qin Supreme Being's assessment of Lin Yuan, they would, without a doubt, shatter the unspoken agreement once more and employ even higher means to exterminate Lin Yuan at all costs. A human genius of this era, ranked 7th, has an extremely slim chance of becoming a supreme being. But a genius ranked in the top 20 or top 10 in human history has a much greater likelihood of achieving that status. Human civilization cannot allow other peak clans to have an additional supreme being, and the insect race is equally unwilling to see another supreme being emerge from human civilization. In truth, even Xia Qin Supreme Being underestimated Lin Yuan's talent. In Xia Qin's view, Lin Yuan must have received heritage from forces outside the main world, which is why he knew about the magic Jade Tower. And that heritage undoubtedly includes a plethora of cultivation resources and fortuitous encounters. This is what has made Lin Yuan what he is today. However, in reality, from the time Lin Yuan became an evolver until he took over the Milky Way star region, except for the door to the myriad realms, he never encountered any unknown fortune. This assassination attempt, I want you to completely kill that Galaxy Master so that he cannot resurrect. The shadow of the bug hive sent out a psychic wave. Unable to resurrect. Completely kill. The 5 8th layer invincibles looked at each other. Their expressions showed helplessness. With Lin Yuan's identity and strength, it was highly likely that the one stationed at the Milky Way main star would be an avatar. The true body, presumably, was in an extremely safe place. Even with the 5 of the 8th layer invincibles joining forces, the Star Lord would definitely not be able to resist, but completely killing him, along with his true body, was almost impossible. No matter what, Lin Yuan was also of the 8th layer, existing at the same realm as these invincible beings. Some special methods, such as the curse-killing skill, wouldn't even have an effect. That meant, not only could they not completely kill him, but they also could not prevent him from resurrecting. Rest assured, the mind of the bug hive shadow flickered slightly. A cubic container appeared. The cube was transparent, and faintly, one could see mist swirling inside it. "This is memory poison," it said. "The 5 of you, working together to control the avatar of the Galaxy Star Lord, then inject this memory poison into its body," directed the voice. "You don't have to worry about the rest," the shadow of the bug hive's psychic wave conveyed. Memory poison. The 5 8th layer invincibles were immediately startled. Memory poison is an extremely special artifact, it can destroy and twist beings on the level of memory. As is well known, with the doppelganger skill, the original body shares memories with the avatar. If memory poison is injected into the avatar, then the original body's memories will also be contaminated and twisted. By then, even if a supreme being intervened, reversing the course and resurrecting the individual would be meaningless. The rationale behind resurrection is for a supreme being to use the rule of time to reverse spacetime, pulling the dead being from the past to the present. This achieves the goal of resurrection. However, no matter to which point in time they return, the moment the resurrected being comes back to the cosmic starry sky, they will receive all the memory information from right before their death. That means, even if a supreme being goes back to an even more distant past, to retrieve a being whose memories have not yet been contaminated, once that individual returns to the cosmic starry sky and synchronizes memories, they will be contaminated all over again. To use memory poison on just a human 8th layer, even if he is an exceptional genius, one of the invincibles muttered under their breath. Memory poison is extremely precious, and only a supreme being, expending great effort and paying some price, can possibly create it. Even for the wealth of the insect race, there probably aren't many instances of memory poison. Any within the top 10 of our created list merit the use of memory poison, commented the Shadow. However, given the potential of the Galaxy Master, he is bound to have life-saving items. You 5 must strike with full force, leaving no opportunity, the Shadow of the Bug Hive warned. While memory poison is fearsome, it targets only memories. Any other power, no matter how faint, could destroy memory poison. Therefore, only if the 5 8th layer invincibles completely subdue the Galaxy Star Lord and cut off all of his chances for resistance, can memory poison be used. Chapter 442 10 years, please subscribe, _2 Milky Way main star. Lin Yuan arrived at his inner world. Thunderheart. Lin Yuan slowly merged the 8-star supreme cosmic rare treasure he had traded for 12,000 cubic universe crystals into his inner world. Wish. Strands of purple lightning began to fill the vast expanse of his inner world, spanning over 2 million square miles. The purple lightning was filled with a destructive aura, yet it also burst forth with vibrant vitality, making his entire inner world suddenly feel much more real. Worthy of being the Thunderheart. Lin Yuan felt the changes in his inner world. A look of satisfaction appeared on his face. Even among cosmic rare treasures, there were significant differences between them. A cosmic rare treasure like the Thunderheart was clearly superior to others like the Primordial Fire. This could be seen from their values. My current strength should be considered the first sequence below the invincible 8th layer, I suppose, Lin Yuan thought to himself. It's just that up to now, I'm still a bit short of fully comprehending the Taiyin rule. Lin Yuan sat cross-legged in his inner world, his thoughts fluctuating. From 4th rank onwards, Lin Yuan had begun to comprehend the Taiyin Taiyang rule. After that, 5th rank, 6th rank, 7th rank, and even now at 8th layer, it was the Taiyang rule that was always far ahead. Furthermore, Taiyin and Taiyang complement each other, forming Taiji, so even if the comprehension of the Taiyin rule was slightly weaker, it didn't affect Lin Yuan much. As a result, Lin Yuan's comprehension of the Taiyin rule was much less advanced than the Taiyang rule, and even with a complete understanding of the Taiyang rule, the conversion of Taiyin Taiyang through Taiji still couldn't rapidly lead to the comprehension of the Taiyin rule. No rush. I can feel it's coming soon. At most a few years, or a bit over a decade. Lin Yuan had a good sense of it. Other evolvers would need to break through countless bottlenecks and shackles to fully comprehend the Taiyin rule. But he had the conversion of the Taiyang rule, having virtually no bottlenecks or shackles, so it was not an exaggeration to say it was a level plane. Soul-settling pearl, Lin Yuan glanced at the life-saving object given to him by Xia Qin Supreme Being. The soul-settling pearl guarded the spirit will, encompassing one's own memories. The intention of the Xia Qin Supreme Being was even if a Supreme Being made a move, the soul-settling pearl could block it for an instant, providing Lin Yuan an opportunity to self-destruct. However, it wasn't to say that the soul-settling pearl would only activate if a Supreme Being acted. Any attack or method that threatened Lin Yuan's spirit will or memories would be blocked by the soul-settling pearl. Of course, the heart demon from the heart demon tribulation was not included in this. Milky Way Main Star Palace. Lin Yuan sat cross-legged, with crimson flames burning wildly inside him. Time passed, but it was hard to say how much. Lin Yuan opened his eyes. My body didn't collapse. According to the information Lin Yuan obtained from the mysterious gourd, fully absorbing the liquid inside the gourd was predicated on having an unharmed body persist until the end. In the past countless times, Lin Yuan's body had turned to dust, and he had returned with the blood rebirth divine skill. But now, Lin Yuan's body had persisted. Indeed, it increased by 33 times. Lin Yuan carefully felt his body and his inner world and reached a conclusion. His inner world was now vast and boundless, almost 7 million square miles in area. This was because during this period, Lin Yuan had comprehended more spatial models, causing the base size of his inner world to exceed 800,000 square miles. Then, after expanding by 33 times, he ended up with the nearly 7 million square miles large inner world he now possessed. Now, relying solely on my inner world, I am enough to crush ordinary 8th-layer peaks. A smile appeared on Lin Yuan's face. The inner world of a normal 8th-layer peak would be around 400,000 square miles. 400,000 square miles? 7 million square miles. It was more than just a crushing difference. Continue. Let's see the orange-yellow liquid. Lin Yuan's eyes shone brightly as he looked at the gray-red gourd in front of him. The gray-red gourd could condense 7 types of liquids, divided by color into red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. Lin Yuan had completely absorbed the crimson liquid. Next would be the orange-yellow liquid. Thinking this, Lin Yuan immediately reached out to grasp the gourd, turning the spout downward. Perhaps because of the contact with Lin Yuan's hand, the originally gray-red gourd slowly began to change. The red began to fade, replaced by yellow. Gray-yellow gourd. Drip drop. A drop of orange-yellow liquid coalesced at the mouth of the gourd. So beautiful. Lin Yuan gazed at the drop of orange-yellow liquid, vaguely sensing a miniature universe within it. He observed for a moment. Lin Yuan then swallowed the drop of orange-yellow liquid. Boom! The orange-yellow liquid turned into flames, quickly spreading throughout Lin Yuan's body. Hiss! In an instant, Lin Yuan's body turned to ashes. After a few breaths, the blood rebirth divine skill activated, and Lin Yuan returned from the ashes. This? Lin Yuan was somewhat stunned. The enhancement is too great, causing me to be unable to endure it. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and came to a conclusion. It seems that an inner world with a 500 million mile radius is at least required to withstand the enhancement from the orange-yellow liquid. Lin Yuan thought to himself. Unlike improving the inner world through grasping the space rules, the enhancement from the liquid inside the mysterious gourd is forceful, breaking some limits and constraints for improvement. Therefore, one cannot step too far at one time. Lin Yuan must possess a certain foundation to endure a large enough enhancement. An inner world with a 5 million mile radius isn't difficult for me. Lin Yuan thought, after transforming with the red liquid, an inner world with a 500 million mile radius was equivalent to other evolvers' 150 million mile radius inner world. This was far from reaching the limit of the inner world. Outside the Milky Way main star. 5 figures hid in the depths of space. This planet, after a B-grade modification, can even hold off us for a few breaths. the leading 8th layer invincible spoke. These few breaths could potentially alert the Galaxy Master to something off, leading him to detonate his avatar directly. If that happened, their mission would end in failure. Although they would not be punished by the insect race, those treasure rewards would obviously have nothing to do with them. What do we do now? The second 8th layer invincible frowned. The Galaxy Master was within the planet. Although there were hundreds of millions of miles between them, for 8th layer invincibles, one teleportation was all it took to arrive, nearly no different from being right in front of them. Of course, the B-grade modified Milky Way main star had the ability to block teleportation. They could at most teleport outside the planet. Wait for the Galaxy Master to come out on his own. The leading 8th layer invincible continued, we only have one chance. Once the Galaxy Master notices, consider it a failure. With that said, the 4 8th layer invincibles nodded slightly. The strength of the Galaxy Master was indeed inferior to that of any of them. But the Galaxy Master doesn't need to confront them directly. Just by successfully detonating his avatar, he would render the 5 of them helpless. The Galaxy Master might be young, but he wasn't foolish. Once he realized 5 8th layer invincibles were coming after him, he would definitely be able to surmise that they possessed some means to affect his true self. Simply killing an avatar wouldn't compel 5 8th layer invincibles to make a move. Though, deploying 8th layer invincibles in the fringe starfield is far less costly than deploying them deep within human civilization. In the fringe starfield, 8th layer invincibles are very likely to escape unscathed after an assassination. But deep within human civilization, not to mention 8th layer invincibles, even 9th rank powerhouses, as long as they dare to reveal themselves, are doomed to die. But what's the status of 8th layer invincibles? To deploy 5 at once. Even the peak clans wouldn't waste resources like that. The only possibility would be planning to kill the avatar and its true self together. Right, we only have one chance. We must seize it. The 5 8th layer invincibles exchanged glances. They immediately began waiting patiently. As long as the Galaxy Master didn't discover their ambush outside, he would come out sooner or later. That would be their chance. With this thought, the 5 8th layer invincibles felt a slight heat in their hearts. If the mission went smoothly, the reward from the insect race might just enable them to take that next step. And so, the 5 8th layer invincibles waited outside the Milky Way main star for 10 years. Chapter 443 Infiltration. Please subscribe. Outside the Milky Way main star. In the depths of space, 5 members of different species fused. As 8th layer invincibles, they had essentially penetrated through 5 or 6,000 core spatial models. They could easily merge into layer upon layer of space. The space of the main world was vast and boundless, its layers number unknown. Countless secret realms were hidden within certain layers, undiscovered for tens of thousands of years. What exactly is this Galaxy Master doing? Not coming out for 10 years, the 5 8th layer invincibles of the alien races wondered. For an 8th layer powerhouse, a retreat spanning decades or even centuries was not strange, but the Galaxy Master had just assumed control over the Milky Way star region. Logically, he would need to move around the region frequently. Where was the precedent for a new Star Lord hiding away on the main star and not showing himself? Indeed, as a Star Lord, one would certainly not take personal action in all matters, but to not even show one's face. No matter. We just need to wait. If not 10 years, then 50 years. If 50 years won't do, then 500 years. The leading 8th layer invincible, who hailed from the powerful dark-scaled race and was named Sarath, spoke out. The dark-scaled race was a member of the Insect Race Alliance, and the other 4 8th layer invincibles also came from several major races of the Insect Race Alliance. Among the insect race themselves, there was no concept of 8th layer invincibles. Each insect race hive could nurture countless warriors, and as long as there were enough 8th layer insect race warriors, even the invincibles would have to be wary. Therefore, the way to assess the strength of an insect race hive was by the layer it occupied, and the number of insect race warriors it had nurtured across various ranks. An 8th layer insect race hive was the strongest existence within the 8th layer. Given enough time and resources, it could produce an endless stream of 8th layer insect race warriors. Even if these warriors lacked a basic understanding of the rules, a quantitative change would cause a qualitative change. When there were enough numbers, they could sweep all before them. This was the insect race's technique for sweeping through the cosmic starry skies, known as the Sea of Insects tactics. Correct. It's just a matter of time. For us, even if we have to wait thousands of years, what of it? The 3rd 8th layer invincible said. They, too, yearned to step into the 9th rank, but facing the threshold of fusion rules, mere secluded cultivation was useless. Fusion rules, especially those involving cornerstone support rules, required not only sufficient personal strength but also the key moment of spiritual light. Wait 1,000 years. The 4th 8th layer invincible frowned slightly, sensing that something wasn't right. This Galaxy Master, with such terrifying talent and potential, ranks 7th even on the insect race's hit list. If he cultivates for thousands of years, there's the possibility he'll reach the 9th rank, or at least become an 8th layer invincible. He expressed his concerns. With this statement, the remaining 4 8th layer invincibles fell silent. If it were any other evolver, the notion of discerning some cosmic force and becoming an 8th layer invincible within a few thousand years would certainly be met with scoffs. Is cosmic force so easily discerned? All being 8th layer invincibles, they were well aware of the difficulty in comprehending cosmic force, not knowing how many perils they had faced, or how many miraculous chances they had encountered. Even with extraordinary talent, was it possible to discern cosmic force by merely sitting still and cultivating? But if it were the Galaxy Master? There were enough miracles associated with the Galaxy Master. If it were said that he secluded himself for hundreds to thousands of years and discerned some kind of cosmic force, it might actually be possible. We have no choice now, the Dark Scale Race Sarath said. We have only one opportunity. If the Galaxy Master is hiding on the main star and not coming out, we just have to wait. If we wait thousands of years and the Galaxy Master truly discerns some kind of cosmic force, then the insect race's mission should be considered a failure. Among the 8th layer invincibles, there were differences in strength, but the gap was not large. When 2 8th layer invincibles battled, it generally ended in a stalemate, and under normal circumstances, it was difficult for one to defeat the other. This was why individuals of this power level were known as 8th layer invincibles. Even if several 8th layer invincibles ganged up on one, the latter could easily retreat unscathed if they were outmatched. Therefore, in Sarath's view, if the Galaxy Master truly could discern some kind of cosmic force and become an 8th layer invincible, then their assassination plot would have failed. The memory poison targeted only the mind and memories. It would only be effective if the Galaxy Master lost all capacity to resist completely. Even a 9th rank powerhouse would find it difficult to make an 8th layer invincible lose their ability to resist entirely, let alone them. Of course, in the eyes of several 8th layer invincibles, the prospect of the Galaxy Master becoming an 8th layer invincible was just hopeful, not certain. They watched and waited outside the main star, the likelihood of their success still quite high. On the Milky Way main star. In the palace, Lin Yuan sat cross-legged. The talent I've displayed includes stepping into the 8th layer before the age of 100 and an astonishing growth rate, Lin Yuan thought to himself. Before I took office, my teacher warned me that the insect race might attempt an assassination on me. Lin Yuan glanced in the direction of the starry sky. He had spent 100,000 cubic universe crystals to remodel the main star to grade B, not just because as the economic and political center of the star domain the main star's security was vital, but also to make his strongholds as impregnable as a fortress. A grade B planet remodel could easily suppress most 8th layer powerhouses. In terms of defense, it was equally astonishingly strong. Even if a 9th rank powerhouse made a move, it could hold out for a brief moment. If an 8th layer invincible attacked, even a group of them, it could withstand a few breaths' time. For a powerful individual, even a fraction of a moment could allow much to be accomplished. Lin Yuan could completely reveal his true body and avoid direct contact with a 9th-rank powerhouse. Chapter 444 Lurking. Subscribe please. _2 And yet, Lin Yuan didn't believe that the insect race would deploy 9th-rank powers to assassinate him. Deploying 9th-rank combat power would be equivalent to tearing their faces off with human civilization. If the benefits were significant enough, the insect race wouldn't mind doing so, but based on the talent Lin Yuan had currently revealed, he was far from qualified. Therefore, Lin Yuan mainly needed to guard against invincible assassins of the 8th layer. In the face of invincible opponents from the 8th layer, Lin Yuan only needed to hide inside his main star. When Lin Yuan first arrived in the Milky Way star region, he swiftly and decisively cleared the largest unstable elements within the star field. It was to reduce the frequency of his own outings later on. The evolvers of human civilization, upon reaching the 8th layer, must guard the fringe starfield. This is tradition, this is the rule, even the progeny of a supreme being is no exception. Lin Yuan thought to himself. Evolvers below the 8th layer are protected and supported by human civilization. Upon reaching the 8th layer, they need to give back and guard the fringe starfield, which in fact isn't very dangerous. Talents like Lin Yuan who might be assassinated by different species are often granted numerous life-saving trump cards before heading to the fringe starfield. The soul-settling pearl that the Xia Qin Supreme Being gave to Lin Yuan was such an item. Even if a Supreme Being from a different species took action, it could still preserve his chance of resurrection. Of course, if an evolver made a tremendous contribution to human civilization, such as becoming an evolutionary scholar, or nearing the status of evolutionary scholar, they could apply for exemption from the duty of guarding the fringe starfield. But such instances are extremely rare. With the potential that Lin Yuan had revealed, he actually qualified to apply. But if he did, and all other newly promoted 8th layer evolvers were guarding the fringe starfields, while Lin Yuan did not, it would be the same as announcing to the different species that the Galactic Star Lord had even greater secrets. Once so, even if Lin Yuan hid in the great rear of human civilization, it wouldn't necessarily be absolutely safe. These 10 years. Lin Yuan's thoughts shifted, and a smile appeared on his face. 10 years in the main world allowed Lin Yuan to make rapid progress in all aspects. First and foremost was his understanding of rules. Of the core models of space rules, Lin Yuan had already comprehended 2,932 types. One must know, 10 years prior, Lin Yuan's understanding of core space models was just over 2,000 types. Over the past 10 years, Lin Yuan had directly comprehended 900 core space models. The difficulty of comprehending these 900 core space models was unknowably higher than that of the initial 900. The 7,782 core space models become increasingly difficult to understand as one progresses, with the difficulty curve rising exponentially. The difficulty of understanding the 2000th core space model was far greater than that of the first. This was reflected in the expansion of his inner world. The later space models, once comprehended, contributed more significantly to the expansion of his inner world. And the 2,932 core space models directly expanded Lin Yuan's inner world to a radius of 2 million miles. This radius of 2 million miles refers to the normal size of an inner world. After the basic amplification by the crimson liquid, Lin Yuan's inner world reached a radius of 6,666 miles. With the basic amplification by the orange-yellow liquid, Lin Yuan's inner world now exceeded 10 million miles in radius. The orange-yellow liquid, Lin Yuan took out the mysterious gourd, which by now was a gray-yellow color and faintly emitted a mysterious aura. Whether it be the initial crimson liquid or the orange-yellow liquid, both provided a basic amplification to the body and the inner world. Compared to the crimson liquid, Lin Yuan absorbed the orange-yellow liquid much more slowly. In 10 years, he had only absorbed a little more than half. Now, the basic amplification of my physical body and inner world has probably reached about 5 times. Lin Yuan estimated in his heart. 3.33 times from the crimson liquid, nearly twice from the orange-yellow liquid. The latter is less than the former because Lin Yuan hasn't fully absorbed the orange-yellow liquid. In theory, if Lin Yuan were to absorb the orange-yellow liquid completely, the final amplification could reach 6.66 times. It's terrifying. Even after more than a decade, Lin Yuan was still amazed by the effects of the mysterious gourd. It provided a basic amplification, not a mere addition or subtraction. Now Lin Yuan's inner world had reached 10 million miles. An inner world of 10 million miles. That's the limit for human evolvers, achievable only at the 8th layer after fully comprehending complete space rules. But fully comprehending complete space rules at the 8th layer was practically impossible, with some 9th rank powerhouses not having achieved it either. Yet Lin Yuan, in a way, had done it. Although he had not comprehended complete space rules, he nevertheless had one of the greatest benefits of doing so. An inner world with a radius of 10 million miles. And the inner world with a radius of 10 million miles was not Lin Yuan's limit. He could continue to increase it, by a substantial margin. With an inner world of 10 million miles in radius, my current combat power, even if it's not quite on par with an invincible 8th layer, isn't far off either. Lin Yuan scrutinized himself. According to his speculation, if his inner world reached tens of millions of miles in circumference, even without comprehending some form of cosmic force, he could still forcefully contend with an 8th layer invincible. If his inner world reached hundreds of millions of miles, then he would be able to crush an 8th layer invincible. From time immemorial, the myth that 8th layer invincibles stood unbeatable at their level had belonged to them alone. Yet, as long as Lin Yuan continued to cultivate, he could break this myth. It's a pity that the Taiyin rule is still lacking a bit. Lin Yuan sighed. In the past decade, much of his effort had been placed on absorbing the orange-yellow liquid and understanding space rules among other things. This caused a delay in fully comprehending the Taiyin rule. Even so, Lin Yuan felt that he was close. Even if he did nothing at all, in at most 2 to 3 years, the Taiyin rule would naturally be comprehended. This is the essence of the complementary nature of yin and yang within the Tao of Taiji. When one side improves, the other side's improvement is a natural consequence. World-breaking origin force, already 36 strands, Lin Yuan's mind sank into the depths of his mind, looking towards that majestic and grand door to the myriad realms. 10 years ago, the amount of world-breaking origin force Lin Yuan had accumulated was only 17 strands, but now it had risen to 36 strands. At the moment, the Milky Way star region's development is stable, and there's no need for me to do anything, so I can undertake the 8th traversal. Lin Yuan thought. However, for the 8th traversal, Lin Yuan was still somewhat hesitant on how to choose. Lin Yuan's gaze shifted, looking towards a certain direction of the main star. There was a mountain peak where Wan Wei, the 8th rank evolver who had actively come to follow Lin Yuan more than a decade ago, resided. At this moment, Wan Wei stood on the mountain peak, with the space around her faintly distorting, a sign that she was trying to comprehend the core space model. Wrong. The direction is wrong. Lin Yuan immediately spotted the issue with Wan Wei's approach. The space rules are vast and boundless, and the 7,782 core space models summed up by the predecessors of human civilization only explain some aspects of the essence of space rules. Each person who comprehends the core space models may derive different insights. Well then. Lin Yuan decided and vanished from the palace. Space. What exactly is space? Wan Wei's eyebrows were tightly furrowed, and her aura began to destabilize subtly. At that moment, Lin Yuan appeared. He pointed a finger at Wan Wei's brow. In an instant, the space fluctuations around them slowly dissipated, and the unstable aura within Wan Wei gradually stabilized. Star Lord. Ruan Wei came to her senses and immediately saluted Lin Yuan with gratitude. Space is everything. Lin Yuan shook his head and spoke. As someone who had already comprehended nearly 3,000 core space models, Lin Yuan was fully qualified to correct Ruan Wei's deviation. Space is everything. Ruan Wei looked slightly bewildered. Space encompasses all. What you see as space is only an insignificant part. The cosmic starry sky, layer upon layer of space, is almost endless. When you comprehend space rules, never try to concretize space, otherwise, it's easy to go astray, Lin Yuan cautioned. For evolvers trying to comprehend space rules, it's like a blind man feeling an elephant. No concrete standards exist, but assuming that space is like the elephant's leg just because one felt it, would be a huge mistake. Thank you, Star-Lord. Ruan Wei felt inspired and bowed excitedly. She had been trying hard to sense the space rules, attempting to imagine what they looked like, not realizing she had been venturing into forbidden territory. Once she truly fixed a specific image of space in her mind, going forward, it would be very difficult for her to make further progress in the space rules. Although Lin Yuan had only casually reminded her, without a doubt, he had steered Ruan Wei back onto the broadest path of the Great Tao. This was one reason why many evolvers were willing to follow a strong leader. Often, just one piece of guidance from a strong being could pull them out of a dead end. One sentence might change a lifetime. Chapter 445 8th Shuttle, please subscribe. Advising Ruan Wei was indeed a casual act for Lin Yuan. For over a decade, Ruan Wei had been hustling around for the matters of the Milky Way star region. Lin Yuan had observed all this, and now realizing that the other party was on the wrong path, he didn't mind pulling him back. After all, for Lin Yuan, it was just a matter of a few words, without costing him anything. He was just tired from his cultivation, it was merely a small effort. After wandering around outside for a while, Lin Yuan then returned to the palace. Buzz. Lin Yuan connected his consciousness to the virtual world and arrived at the top of a mountain. Under the vault of the sky, that part of the body still existed, as if it had never changed through the ages. Continue to ponder. Lin Yuan scanned his surroundings. Many evolvers had started to attempt to cease their cultivation in favor of comprehending more evolution paths. But this group of evolvers only constituted a tiny minority, having to endure tremendous pressure from their spirit will and to comprehend various evolution paths. Even with his against heaven's understanding, Lin Yuan had spent quite some time achieving this. Other talented evolvers aiming to tread this path could not say it was utterly impossible. But that was a matter for many years later. This was also why when Lin Yuan told the Goddess of Wisdom about this method of comprehension, he only received 1,500,000 merit points in return. It was too difficult, just like giving an emperor a set of blueprints for a nuclear power plant during the feudal dynasty era. Honestly, Lin Yuan still felt that choosing to cultivate a certain evolution path and perfecting it to the final stage to become an ordinary member of the Magic Jade Tower was more reliable. This evolution path, life rules also have this aspect. Marvelous. Lin Yuan continued to ponder, comprehending one evolution path after another, dissecting them, and realizing the parts that were helpful to him. Over the past decade, Lin Yuan had understood more than 20,000 kinds of evolution paths from this body segment, each evolution path greatly benefiting him. Just a part of the body contains nearly myriad evolution paths. Is this what a supreme being is? I wonder when I, Lin Yuan, can become such an existence? Throughout his continuous comprehension, Lin Yuan gradually sensed the heights at which the Supreme Being stood. It was incredible. That kind of ultimate control over a path, an eternal existence that even time couldn't erode, what kind of scenery would that be? Lin Yuan had also seen the Xia Qin Supreme Being, but the latter did not release any useful aura. Lin Yuan did not discern anything from him. This body segment, merely a projection through the virtual world, really creates unnaturally strong impacts on the outside world. Lin Yuan thought while continuing to ponder. Just a next stage member of the Magic Jade Tower, how many kinds of evolution paths do I need to comprehend thoroughly? I've already figured out more than 20,000, and it hasn't triggered yet. Could it be that I need 333,333 kinds? Lin Yuan's eyes narrowed slightly. To thoroughly comprehend 3,333 evolution paths and automatically become an ordinary member of the Magic Jade Tower. Lin Yuan had already figured out more than 20,000 kinds of evolution paths, and there was reason to speculate that the next stage members of the Magic Jade Tower required 333,333 kinds of evolution paths. Over 30,000 kinds of evolution paths, although it's 10 times 3,333, the difficulty absolutely increased exponentially. Lin Yuan even doubted whether being an ordinary member of the Magic Jade Tower was already the limit, with no further stages of membership levels. It doesn't matter. 30,000 kinds or 300,000 kinds. As long as they help me, I will continue to comprehend. Lin Yuan gathered his thoughts and entered a deep state of contemplation. Sanglan Star Virtual World. Lin Yuan's figure appeared, his parents and sister were already sitting there. Xiao Yuan. Mother Lu Qiong greeted him with a smile. Brother. Lin Yi looked up in admiration. 10 years had passed, and Lin Yi had grown up, accessing many matters of the upper echelons of the human civilization thanks to her relationship with Lin Yuan. This made her aware of her brother's extraordinary existence. He was a super exceptional genius, dazzling across the entire human civilization alliance, competing with the offspring of supreme beings. Because of Lin Yuan, Kanglan Star, an inconspicuous middle-grade life planet, leaped to become a hot star in both the Chikuan Star domain and the Annan Star alliance. Many powerful families from various star domains specially sent their descendants to Kanglan Star to expand their progeny. If Kanglan Star could give birth to a super exceptional genius like Lin Yuan, it indicated its special characteristics. Otherwise, why hadn't the higher-grade life planets given birth to such a super exceptional genius like Lin Yuan? This was the reason why the most popular industry on Kanglan Star turned out to be the fertility industry. Having their offspring born on Kanglan Star, even with a 1 in billion chance, as long as they could produce descendants with 1/1,000,000th of the capability of a galactic star master, it was worth it. How's your cultivation going recently? Lin Yuan chatted casually with his parents. After stepping into the 8th layer, Lin Yuan began to pay attention to the cultivation status of his family members. Even occasionally offering advice. His purpose in doing so, naturally, was to hope that his parents and sister could live longer. With the advanced technology of human civilization, even if one did not become an evolver, there were many ways to prolong life. But among all the methods to extend life, evolution, that is, becoming an evolver, was the most perfect and had the least side effects. Our aptitude is probably not very good, Xiao Yuan. We need a long time to comprehend those analysis videos you provided, said Father Lin Shoucheng, shaking his head. In the beginning, he had high hopes for the path of evolution, thinking he could produce a super genius like Lin Yuan. Chapter 446 The 8th Shuttle, Subscription Request, _2 At the very least, the genetic stock of the Lin family should be decent, right? But when the time truly came to step onto the path of evolution, it was unsurprisingly met with a fatal blow. Seeing that Lu Qiong also struggled with cultivation, Lin Shoucheng didn't know why, but he felt slightly relieved. Still, we need to make an effort, Lin Yuan said. Unless absolutely necessary, Lin Yuan would not let his parents undergo that life-extending transformation technology. Work hard, work hard. Both of us will definitely make an effort. Lin Shoucheng nodded, who wouldn't want to become a powerful evolver traversing the stars? Now that his own son had become a Star Lord, the cultivation conditions of the two of them were envied by many evolvers. Naturally, they would cultivate diligently. Xiao Yuan, you should also rest more often. Don't work too hard, the fringe starfield is also dangerous. After chatting for a bit, Lu Qiong reminded him with concern. Yes, Xiao Yuan, is it really necessary to go to that fringe starfield? Lin Shouqing muttered. He still hoped that his son would stay in the Qikuan star domain. How dangerous is the fringe starfield? Those violent different species. It is indeed essential. Lin Yuan nodded with a smile. In fact, with Lin Yuan's current identity, especially as the founder of Martial Tao, he was eligible to apply to be exempted from the task of garrisoning the fringe starfield. Though the martial path evolutionary path was currently at the 7th rank, its potential was rated higher than some 8th-layer evolutionary paths. Lin Yuan was not an evolution scholar, yet he surpassed one. If he really applied to the Goddess of Wisdom, it would surely be approved. However, that would be too conspicuous. Lin Yuan obediently heading to the fringe starfield to garrison, even if he was targeted for assassination by different species, at most he would be invincible up to the 8th layer. But if Lin Yuan did not garrison the fringe starfield, who knows what would happen? The top seers among the different species would likely discern some information from traces. At that time, Lin Yuan might face an even more dangerous situation. Even the Qikuan Star Lord might not be able to protect him. After chatting with his parents for a while as usual, Lin Yuan's consciousness returned to reality. Door to the myriad realms, Lin Yuan's mind sank into the depths of his mind again, gazing at the majestic and grand door to the myriad realms. Actually, after stepping into the 8th layer, the door to the myriad realms is not without change. Lin Yuan observed the door to the myriad realms carefully. At the 8th layer, his spirit will experience a significant enhancement. He vaguely felt that even if he performed traversals, arriving in other dimensions, other worlds, with the aid of the door to the myriad realms, he could still establish a connection with the main world, instantly sensing everything happening around his physical body in the main world. This was essentially similar to Lin Yuan receiving information transmitted by the ancestral demon tree through the coordinates of the Tianqing world. If relying on Lin Yuan alone, it would be impossible to sense across dimensional layers to the other side. Probably even a supreme being could not do it. But with the aid of the door to the myriad realms, having this object as a medium, such a feat could be achieved. This is also good. Lin Yuan nodded slightly. During traversal, sensing every little detail around his physical body in the main world was definitely a good thing. Traversing to a lower-level world where the flow of time was immense, decades might pass there, while maybe only a few minutes gone by in the main world. But as the number of traversals increased, the levels of the worlds Lin Yuan arrived at became higher, and the flow of time relative to the main world gradually reduced, resulting in the traversal duration becoming increasingly longer. What if a crisis occurred in the main world during Lin Yuan's traversal? Wouldn't he be powerless to resist? Being able to sense the information around his physical self, however, gave Lin Yuan the opportunity to make a choice. If a major crisis really occurred in the main world, possibly endangering his physical body, Lin Yuan would surely end the traversal forcibly, his spirit will returning to take over his body. Compared to losing one traversal, Lin Yuan valued his physical body more. Not to mention the price Lin Yuan had paid on this physical body, simply because the physical body was the spirit will's guiding mark upon return, Lin Yuan would not allow anything to happen to it. I wonder if I can bring the gourd along on the traversal. With a thought, Lin Yuan began to communicate with the door to the myriad realms. The door to the myriad realms allowed for physical travel. Naturally, it could also transport items. It only required a certain amount of world-breaking origin force. During his 7th traversal, Lin Yuan had brought origin fine gold into the Tianqing world and placed it within the world's origin source for cultivation, saving him hundreds of years. The gourd was also an external object which, logically, could be taken through the interdimensional travels. Can it, also for a strand of world-breaking origin force? Lin Yuan sighed in relief, not doubting whether the gourd could be transported but concerned that the door to the myriad realms would demand 10 or even dozens of strands of world-breaking origin force from him. Just a single strand of world-breaking origin force. Lin Yuan smiled faintly, now possessing nearly 40 strands of world-breaking origin force, which made him quite wealthy. I have nearly settled all matters. It's time for the 8th traversal. Lin Yuan collected his thoughts and made a decision. Each traversal significantly enhanced his strength. Being in the fringe starfield, Lin Yuan inevitably felt insecure and urgently needed to increase his strength. Which traversal method should I choose? Lin Yuan pondered internally. Firstly, the random traversal method was somewhat unstable for Lin Yuan at present. It was better avoided if possible. Excluding random traversal, the only option left was targeted traversal. There were two types of targeted traversal. The first required 100 strands of world-breaking origin force and allowed choosing the travel world based on personal requirements. The 100 strands mentioned were just the starting point. If the chosen world's tier was too high, the consumption of world-breaking origin force would only be higher. The second type required 10 strands of world-breaking origin force to descend into a world where he had coordinates. Among the world coordinates Lin Yuan had, only 2 were worth revisiting. One was the Tianqing world. The other was the spirit realm. The Tianqing world was his destination during the 7th traversal, where he had yet to thoroughly explore the boundless void. Meanwhile, the spirit realm was considered the upper realm of the central divine China world. Let's traverse to the spirit realm this time, Lin Yuan decided, knowing the immortal cultivation system would significantly aid the martial path evolutionary path, whereas encountering foreign evil gods in the boundless void was comparatively less beneficial. Thinking this, Lin Yuan sent a sliver of his spirit through the base of the door to the myriad realms, integrating the spirit realm world coordinates into the door. With the assistance of the door to the myriad realms, Lin Yuan arrived outside a vast and immense world. This world was familiar to Lin Yuan. During his time in the central divine continent, he had broken through the void several times to look upon this colossal entity from the outside. Compared to looking up at it back then, the sight was now much clearer. The mighty world forces in operation seemed capable of crushing everything. Are those million minor worlds beneath the spirit realm? Lin Yuan looked downward and saw countless lights, which he assumed were similar to the lower realms of central divine continent. It is said there are more than 1 million such lower realms. Above? Upon observing the spirit realm, Lin Yuan subconsciously looked upward. He indeed spotted a corner of an even more vast world. Is there another world? Could it be the legendary immortal realm? Lin Yuan was startled. In the numerous secret texts of the Taoist immortal sect in the central divine continent, he had read about another immortal realm above the spirit realm. Let's focus on the spirit realm. Lin Yuan's strand of spirit dispersed. Outside the door to the myriad realms, Lin Yuan once again opened his eyes. The immortal realm. Could that be the ultimate location of the immortal cultivation system? Lin Yuan thought to himself. He knew little about the immortal realm. To be precise, the Taoist immortal sect had scant records of it. If it weren't for the occasional descents and communications of the immortals of successive generations, they probably wouldn't have any records of the immortal realm at all. My stay in the spirit realm will likely last around 900 years. Comparing time flow rates, about several hundred to 1, after completing the stay, about 1 or 2 years would have passed in the main world. Lin Yuan planned accordingly. Let's start. Without hesitation, Lin Yuan communicated with the door to the myriad realms, activated the spirit realm's world coordinates, and his willpower abruptly surged into the door. Chapter 447 Martial Ancestors Divine Radiance. Please subscribe. Confused and disoriented. Lost in a haze. By the time Lin Yuan's consciousness revived, he found himself lying on a bed. It's a person, Lin Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. With the experience of his sixth traversal, Lin Yuan realized, the vessel for his travel was not necessarily a human, it could be other species as well. Although there was nothing wrong with other forms of life, a human body offered Lin Yuan boundless possibilities. If he were to traverse into some special beings, he probably wouldn't even be able to practice martial Tao. My current situation, Lin Yuan began to sift through the original Buddhist memories. He had successfully arrived in the spirit realm, currently in Xianyao City, Xianwang Domain, Dongyun Province. Dongyun Province, Xianwang Domain. Basic information about the spirit realm floated through Lin Yuan's mind. He learned all this from the Taoed Immortal sect. The spirit realm was vast and endless, and its most prosperous areas housed 3,000 Tao provinces. Dongyun Tao Province was one of these 3,000. Dongyun Tao Province encompassed more than 20,000 great realms, among which the Xianwang Domain was one. Xianwang Domain, Lin Yuan pondered thoughtfully. If he remembered correctly, the Taoed Immortal sect was located in the Xianwang Domain, one of the three giants of this great realm. Didn't expect this kind of start, Lin Yuan thought to himself. The Taoed Immortal sect here was naturally the force established by a true immortal ancestor of the central divine China's Taoed Immortal sect. Xianyao City, Lin Yuan's expression turned strange. The original Buddhist memories revealed another name for Xianyao City. Wuxia City. A city demarcated by a significant figure from the Taoed Immortal sect. Most of the cultivators in Wuxia City didn't practice the immortal cultivation system, but the martial Tao cultivation system. Martial Tao. Lin Yuan was almost certain that this martial Tao was the one he had spread in central divine China back in the day. In dealings with Sangqing Immortal, Lin Yuan proposed that the martial Tao cultivators in the further ages of the central earth world, if able to reach the sixth stage, could also use the ascension platform to ascend to the spirit realm. It seemed now that Sangqing Immortal had kept his promise. At least several 100,000 years have passed. Lin Yuan silently thought. After his sixth traversal, he had undergone his seventh traversal, and also practiced in the main world for some time. Although totaling no more than 30 years. But those were 30 years of the main world, with the significant differences in time flow between the two worlds. No less than several 100,000 years must have passed in the central divine China world. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the emergence of the sixth rank martial Tao, nor the founding of Xianyao City after ascending to the spirit realm. Xianyao City. Wuxia City. Lin Yuan's expression turned strange. During his sixth traversal, he had spread martial Tao and was known as the ancestor of martial arts, in addition to being called Jun Xiaoyao. Lin Yuan speculated that this Xianyao City might have been established by a few disciples he had taken in back then. Otherwise, the coincidence was too great. Wonder if I can still see those old friends. Lin Yuan's thoughts drifted. According to the plans he had made before he left, it wouldn't be hard for his parents and elder siblings to attain the sixth rank. It's very likely they also ascended to the spirit realm. It's just unknown if they are still alive now. Merely having sixth rank, refined void stage strength, they might not have survived hundreds of thousands of years. My current identity is the eldest young master of the Lin family, and the Lin family is a somewhat famous family in Xianyao City. Lin Yuan sat up from the bed and took a deep breath. Such abundant spiritual energy, Lin Yuan inwardly marveled. There were no spirit veins near Xianyao City, as within this city, cultivators of martial Tao occupied a majority. The demand for spirit veins was not as indispensable as it was for those who followed the immortal cultivation system. Yet even so, the concentration of spiritual energy Lin Yuan felt was no less than that of Mount Morality Immortal, which occupied the largest spirit vein of the central divine China world. No wonder those ancient saints of refined void all yearned to ascend to the spirit realm. With such an environment for cultivation, Lin Yuan could not help but shake his head. This was just Xianyao City. If he were in those sacred lands of cultivation, the richness of the spiritual energy would only be higher. It would even begin to transform into a higher form of energy, the immortal qi, only existent in the legends of central divine China. Am I also practicing martial Tao with this body? Lin Yuan carefully sensed his own body and concluded so. To enter the immortal cultivation system, one must have a spirit root, that is an ironclad rule. But even in the spirit realm, the vast majority of beings still possess no spirit root, and most of those who do have a spirit root are of low quality. If they barely step into the Qi cultivation stage, at most they would stop at foundation establishment. This was the foothold for Xianyao City. The martial Tao cultivation system has no requirement regarding spirit roots. As long as your blood and Qi are abundant, you can cultivate. That brought hope to a significant portion of ordinary people without spirit roots. Even some cultivators with low-quality spirit roots, upon realizing they had significant talent in martial Tao, would switch their practice to martial Tao. Overall, today's martial Tao cultivation system is just a more niche system of cultivation, circulating only within the Xianwang domain, and unknown outside of it. That's quite normal. Although martial Tao doesn't require a spirit root, its upper limit is far below that of Immortal Path. Naturally, cultivators with potential would first choose Immortal Path, and only consider martial Tao after realizing there was no hope in Immortal Path. If one can cultivate immortality, who would practice martial arts? Before I left behind 12 ways to break through to the 7th rank martial Tao. These methods weren't perfect and could hardly compete with Tao integration stage of the Immortal Path, Lin Yuan silently thought. Currently, the 7th rank he was cultivating was the perfect 7th rank, integrated and perfected in the main world. Chapter 448 Martial Ancestors Divine Radiance. Please subscribe. Too much stronger than the 12 7th rank paths left in Central Divine Continent. And even so, the 7th rank is the upper limit on the martial Tao path, and naturally, it's far inferior when compared to the immortal cultivation system with its boundless potential. Xianyao City is under the protection of Dao Immortal sect, and there are many families within the city at present, but the strongest is still the martial temple. Lin Yuan's eyes narrowed slightly. The martial temple is the sacred ground of Xianyao City, said to be related to the martial ancestor. At the founding of Xianyao City, several practitioners at the 7th stage of martial Tao joined hands to establish the martial temple, promoting the martial Tao cultivation system until today. Without the foundation of the martial temple continuously cultivating martial Tao cultivators, whether the martial Tao cultivation system would still exist is a matter of debate. What I need to do first now is to improve my strength. Lin Yuan's thoughts converged. This body also practiced martial Tao, but the realm was too low, it hadn't even entered the Grand Master realm, not to mention stepping into the 2nd layer. There was still a long way to go to complete the 1st rank. After a brief cultivation session, having corrected many mistakes in the original owner's cultivation, Lin Yuan stepped out of the room. Martial Tao is not like the Immortal Path, it doesn't have an indispensable thirst for spiritual energy, but that doesn't mean that cultivation of martial Tao doesn't need resources. On the contrary, martial Tao has a great demand for resources, especially at the 6th rank, where one needs to open an inner world, consuming resources that can be described as vast as mountains and seas. Of course, opening the inner world at the peak of the 6th rank, Lin Yuan's creation of the perfect 7th stage path, has led the martial Tao cultivation system in the spirit realm to stop at the 7th rank. Without Lin Yuan's further contributions, being able to stay intact is already good enough. The vastness of the spirit realm with the immortal cultivation system occupying the mainstream spot, alongside many other cultivation systems, makes the presence of martial Tao rather unremarkable. Lin Yuan walked out of the courtyard and was quickly spotted by a maid. "Young master, you're awake." This maid had the strength of the foundation establishment stage and was cultivated by the Lin family from a young age. Even a family with roots in Xianyao City, like the Lin family, preferred the immortal cultivation system at heart. Soon, Lin Yuan's parents rushed over. "Chang Er, are you all right?" A beautiful woman approached and, after carefully examining Lin Yuan, said with joy on her face, "How do you feel now?" Not bad, Lin Yuan nodded. According to memory, the original owner loved the martial Tao cultivation system very much, but unfortunately, due to being impatient for quick success, he encountered problems during cultivation and fell into a coma. As a result, Lin Yuan's consciousness gradually awakened. Chang'er, you have a spirit root, even if it's just a triple spirit root, you can cultivate on the immortal path. Why fixate on martial Tao? The original owner's father, named Lin Jianping, started the Lin family from scratch and is considered a model of success in Xianyao City. With more than 10 branches of the Lin family business in Xianyao City, Lin Jianping was well informed and knew the advantages of the immortal cultivation system were far superior to martial Tao. Beyond the Xianwang domain, among the 3,000 Dao states, the real stage is occupied by those proud children who cultivate the immortal cultivation system. Lin Jianping didn't have high hopes for his son, but at the very least, he didn't want him to suffer through martial Tao. Practicing martial Tao requires physical and body refining, and the torment suffered is definitely greater than that of cultivating on the immortal path. I like martial Tao, Lin Yuan said casually. This was also the original owner's thought. Now that Lin Yuan's consciousness had awakened, he had no doubts about cultivating martial Tao. As for the immortal path, it could indeed be of reference later on, but his foundation would definitely remain in martial Tao. You like martial Tao? Lin Jianping was somewhat worried. His son was good at everything and had been extremely sensible since he was a child, but he was very stubborn. Once he decided on something, no one could pull him back. Most of those who practice martial Tao did so because they either had no spirit root or their spirit root quality was too low, and they had no choice but to choose martial Tao. But Lin Yuan, though the triple spirit root talent was not strong, it wasn't weak either. With a bit of luck, he might well step into the golden core stage. Duh. Lin Jianping raised his right hand, and suddenly a figure emerged from the shadows. Take some of those century-old, millennium-old blood spirit Ganoderma, white jade ginseng, and other spiritual medicines from the various branches, and give them to Chang'er for cultivation. In the early stages of martial Tao cultivation, the primary focus is on forging the body and blood, and this stage can actually be shortened through external means. Yes. The figure named De bowed slightly. De. Lin Yuan glanced at the figure standing behind Lin Jianping. Third rank of martial Tao. Lin Yuan thought to himself. In Xianyao City, the number of martial Tao cultivators is the greatest. Although Lin Jianping is reluctant to have his own son practice martial Tao, in fact, compared to the immortal path, the martial Tao cultivation system still has a significant influence in the Xianwang domain. After all, it has produced several 7th-stage martial Taoists who can be considered on par with Unity Realm true immortals. Lin Jianping was worried that his son might neither understand martial Tao cultivation completely, nor ruin his health by practicing incorrectly. Son, ponder on your martial Tao well. Your father will find you a master in the next few days. Lin Jianping patted Lin Yuan on the shoulder, then left with the beautiful woman. Find a master. Lin Yuan thought about it and decided not to refuse. Given the previous instance where he fainted from training too hard, if he were to refuse again, it would probably cause his parents to worry. Lin Jianping brought the beautiful woman to a grand hall. The beautiful woman, Shenzhen, gave Lin Jianping a sideways glance. What kind of master do you intend to find for Chang'er? In Xianyao City, although martial Tao cultivators are as plentiful as carps crossing the river, true martial Tao experts are scarce. Those of the 4th stage and above can be counted on one's fingers. If my son, Lin Jianping, wishes to practice martial Tao, he must certainly have the best. After contemplation, Lin Jianping made a decision. I plan to send Chang'er to the martial temple to experience the martial ancestors' divine radiance. Martial ancestors' divine radiance? Shenzhen blinked, then quickly realized, all right, old Lin, Are you really willing to part with that much? Undoubtedly, the place where martial Tao cultivators are most concentrated in the whole of Xianyao City is the martial temple. As the foundation for martial Tao cultivators, the few 7th-stage martial Tao experts who established the martial temple intended to ensure the continuation of the martial Tao cultivation system legacy and specially left behind several streaks of divine radiance. These streaks of divine radiance expound on the essence of martial Tao as understood by this group of 7th-stage martial Taoists, which is also associated with the mysterious martial ancestor. Hence, it is known as the martial ancestor's divine radiance. The martial ancestor's divine radiance serves two purposes. One is to let the experiencer closely feel the essence understood by the 7th-stage martial Taoists. The second is to determine which aspect of the martial Tao cultivation system the experiencer specializes in. Especially the first purpose, it's equivalent to receiving indirect guidance from those few 7th-stage martial Tao experts. 7th-stage martial Tao experts, shoulder to shoulder with Unity Realm true immortals, stand as significant figures overlooking the Xianwang domain at this level, regardless of whether they are cultivators of the immortal path or not. Of course, to enter the martial temple, and comprehend the martial ancestor's divine radiance, one must either possess astonishing talent to get the temple's attention, or otherwise, one has to find a back door. So-called backdoor entry essentially means paying an extra price to get the chance to follow behind a disciple with astonishing martial talent, to also experience the radiance. To get a share of the remaining martial ancestor's divine radiance left by others. Still, with the Lin family scale, for Lin Yuan to experience the martial ancestor's divine radiance even once would probably cost the family a significant portion of their wealth. This is still with the Lin family having established roots in Xianyao City for many years, otherwise, outside forces would not even have the opportunity to find a back door. Name, Lin Chang, Lin Yuan, identity, holder of the door to the myriad realms gate, bound talent, heaven-defying comprehension, divine power, blood resurrection, current status, consciousness descent, remaining residence time, 920 years, in the room. Lin Yuan glanced at the ethereal characters in the bottom left corner of his vision. This stay is for 920 years. Lin Yuan was quite satisfied in his heart. Such a long time should be enough to nearly establish the 8th-stage martial Tao. I'm still too weak now. To recover to the 8th layer level, I'll need a substantial amount of resources. Lin Yuan grabbed a large half-millennium Ganoderma and swallowed it, his body quickly absorbing the surging essence. From the 1st to 6th rank, there's no need to worry, but the 6th rank peak. 7th rank. That requires creating an inner world, and for that, I must rely on a great amount of resources. In the main world, Lin Yuan had used countless tons of scarlet spirit liquid to create his inner world. Forget it. Let's take it one step at a time. Lin Yuan gathered his thoughts and continued his cultivation. Chapter 449 I am the martial ancestor, feel the divine radiance, please subscribe. Several days later. Lin Yuan was still cultivating. When his mother, Shenzhen, dragged him out of his room. Chang I'm taking you to a good place, said Mother Shenzhen with a hint of mystery in her voice. A good place. Lin Yuan felt quite helpless in his heart. Soon. The two of them went outside. Father Lin Jianpain had been waiting for a long time. His face was full of solemnity. This time we are going to the martial temple, he said. Chang once you're there, you must not cause any trouble, Lin Jianpain instructed. Although the martial Tao cultivation system was far less influential than the immortal cultivation system. In Xianyao City, the martial temple was the only heaven, controlling everything, commanding everything. Even looking across the Xianwang domain, the martial temple was one of the most powerful forces under the banner of the Morality Immortal sect, with several 7th-stage martial Tao individuals whose combat power was not the least bit inferior to ordinary Unity Realm true immortals. The martial temple. Lin Yuan's heart stirred slightly. He had long speculated that the martial temple must have been established by the disciples he had taken on in the past, such as Li Qing and others. Its purpose was to ensure the heritage of the martial Tao cultivation system. The center of Xianyao City. The towering Shaoyao Mountain. This was the location of the martial temple, the very heart of the entire Xianyao City. Those seventh-stage martial Tao founders of the martial temple were often at war for the morality Immortal sect, and the strongest within the martial temple were only at the sixth-stage martial Tao, but that was enough to look down upon the entire Xianyao City. Among tens of thousands of cities in the Xianwang domain, Xianyao City ranked in the top 100. And that was because of the presence of the martial temple. Just then, a spirit vessel flew near. Lin Jianping, Lin Yuan, and the others stepped out. Elder of the martial temple, my son wishes to experience the martial ancestors' divine radiance. Lin Jianping pulled out a token. It was bronze in color, with the character martial written on it. Go ahead, said the guards at the entrance to Shaoyao Mountain. After scanning the token, they opened the Great Formation. Seeing this, Lin Jianping once again thanked them and then led Lin Yuan and Shenzhen inside. Another one using connections, the guards sneered after Lin Jianping and the others had disappeared. Ever since the establishment of Xianyao City, every so often, many would come to experience the martial ancestors' divine radiance. Among these people, a very small portion came because of their astonishing martial talent and were invited by the martial temple to experience the divine radiance. But the majority were there to freeload the divine radiance. The higher-ups of the martial temple did not interfere with this, first, because it contributed to the income of the martial temple, and second, because it had no impact on themselves. Once the martial ancestors' divine radiance was activated, the divine radiance would envelop the area for a fixed time, prioritizing those disciples with astonishing martial talent to experience it first. They would go first, and then the rest would follow. Having connections also requires strength to use those connections, sighed another guard. To experience the guidance of the martial ancestors' divine radiance, indirectly receiving the guidance of a martial Tao expert on a par with true immortals, wouldn't you want that? Said the guard, shaking his head. Of course, I would, replied the first guard after a moment of silence, admitting the truth. The guidance of a powerful figure was too important. Especially since the martial ancestors' divine radiance not only provided guidance but could also determine the aspects of martial Tao the experiencer excelled in. Shaoyao Mountain. At first glance, Lin Yuan saw a massive mountain peak, with thin strands of aura scattered throughout the air, clearly indicating that outsiders daring to intrude would be suppressed by forces from all around the very first moment. Combining martial Tao methods with immortal Dao formations, this is interesting, Lin Yuan observed, discerning much of the essence of Shaoyao Mountain with just a glance. Chang Air, don't look around so much, Lin Jianping saw Lin Yuan's gaze and quickly reminded him. Inside Shaoyao Mountain, figures from the martial temple would pass by from time to time. If Lin Yuan's gaze attracted the attention of one of these prominent individuals, it would be an unwarranted disaster. The group followed the path and soon arrived at a teleportation formation. Given the vastness of Shaoyao Mountain, reaching the martial temple at the summit would take at least half a day, so there were usually teleportation arrays at the foot of the mountain. With an indication from a martial temple disciple, Lin Yuan and the other two stepped into the teleportation formation and in a flash, arrived at the summit. There are quite a few people here, Shenzhen curiously looked around. She noticed many people gathered in small groups, conversing in low tones. In the distance, a massive wall stood erect, that was where the martial ancestors' divine radiance was activated. It was currently in a closed state, and no one was allowed to enter. It's not just us who have come to experience the martial ancestors' divine radiance. Xianyao City is so big, many powerful families send their scions whenever the martial ancestors' divine radiance is activated, Lin Jianping said in a low voice. The Lin family was only somewhat well known in Xianyao City, which was nothing compared to the real power players. For Lin Yuan to experience the martial ancestor's divine radiance just once, the Lin family had to spend nearly all of its wealth, but for those real power players, sending a group of clan members to experience it was routine every time it was activated. Lin Yuan just listened at the side. Most of his attention, however, was concentrated beyond that wall. Martial ancestor's divine radiance. Lin Yuan had some guesses in his mind. Before leaving the central divine China world, he had left behind 7 statues with engravings of brief insights into martial Tao. As Lin Yuan pondered, the large doors in the center of the distant huge wall slowly opened. An elderly man in a black robe walked out. The martial ancestor's divine radiance will soon envelop us. Those whose names are called, enter and experience, the black-robed elder said succinctly and directly. Ouyang Song. The black-robed elder called out again. It's me, a young man stood up, striding into the door. Experience it well, the black-robed elder showed appreciation and advised. Chapter 450 AM The Martial Ancestor, Feel the Divine Radiance, please subscribe, _2, Ouyang Song. Is he the genius with the greatest martial talent in Xianyao City over the past 50 years? It is said that Ouyang Song has comprehended the power of thunder, a force renowned for its lethality. Other people began whispering among themselves. Most of them had brought their descendants through back doors, none of whom could compare to Ouyang Song in terms of martial talent. Atop Shaoyao Mountain. At another location. Several figures were sitting cross-legged, staring at the location enveloped by the martial ancestor's divine radiance. I hope that the opening of the martial ancestor's divine radiance this time can bring a few talented individuals to our martial temple, the leading figure sighed and slowly said. The martial ancestor's divine radiance contains the insights into martial Tao from 3 venerable elders, in addition to the interpretations of that martial ancestor. Any cultivator, as long as they cultivate martial Tao and experience the martial ancestor's divine radiance, will inevitably gain something, the second figure spoke. That martial ancestor, the other few, upon hearing these words, appeared slightly somber. They had heard of the name of the martial ancestor from the mouths of 3 7th-stage martial Tao elders. The martial Tao cultivation system today, in its current scale, is the result of negotiations between that martial ancestor and a true immortal from the Taoed Immortal sect. However, from the beginning to the end, all the martial Tao cultivators of the martial temple had never seen the martial ancestor. On the plaza below, the many who came through back doors to experience the martial ancestor's divine radiance start interacting while waiting. This martial ancestor's divine radiance, left by 3 martial Tao experts of the martial temple comparable to true immortals, actually originates from the martial ancestor. Exactly, otherwise why name it martial ancestor's divine radiance? Martial ancestor. I've heard this name but never heard any specific deeds, I thought it was made up. Could such a person really exist? Ha ha ha, I do know a bit about this. Today's 3 mighty figures from the martial temple, comparable to true immortals, ascended from the lower realms. And that martial ancestor was the master of these 3 7th-stage martial Tao powerhouses in the lower realms. The master of 3 true immortals? What realm is the martial ancestor in now? Not sure. Those 3 of the 7th rank, after ascending, once sought the martial ancestor, but it all came to nothing in the end. Perhaps that martial ancestor did not ascend, or perhaps he did ascend but got trapped somewhere. The spirit realm is boundless with various dangers everywhere. It's very normal. Many discussions followed. Lin Jianpain remained silent. Martial ancestor is an incredible being, Lin Jianpain finally spoke after a long time. You don't even know the martial ancestor. How do you know he's incredible? Shenzhen glanced at Lin Jianpain. That, you just don't understand, Lin Jianpain shook his head. Martial ancestor. Lin Yuan was listening on the side. 3 7th-stage martial Tao. Is it Li Qing? Or other disciples? Lin Yuan pondered in his mind. The white jade pavilion he had established had taken in hundreds of disciples, personally teaching them martial Tao. But those who were hopeful of stepping into the 7th rank weren't many, just a few. At another location on the mountain top, several high-ranking officials of the martial temple were observing the martial ancestors' divine radiance. Martial Tao prodigy Ouyang Song sat cross-legged, closely feeling the divine radiance emitted by the 7 statues in front of him, his expression shifting unpredictably. A moment later, from the 7 statues, the first one on the left emitted 30% of its light. Martial Tao prodigy Ouyang Song suddenly opened his eyes, gasping for air. Not bad. This statue symbolizes the way of slaying. 30% of the radiance is quite good. Xianyao City hasn't seen such a talent in 100 years, the leading figure nodded in approval. These 7 statues, embodying different aspects of martial Tao, could help the experiencer choose their future path. As for the emitted light, it was testing the experiencer's compatibility with martial Tao. 30% light was considered rare. Admit Ouyang Song as an inner sect disciple, focus on cultivating him, another figure spoke. Inner sect disciple. Acceptable, if it reached 40% light, he could completely be taken as a core disciple. What a pity. Being an inner sect disciple is also not bad, he has prospects of advancing to the 4th stage martial Tao. Several figures discussed for a while and finally made a decision. Next. One by one, martial Tao prodigies experienced the martial ancestors' divine radiance. Ultimately, 3 became martial temple inner sect disciples, 1 became a core disciple, and 6 became ordinary disciples. In conclusion, the spectacle of the martial ancestors' divine radiance could essentially be considered as ended. As for those still queuing up to experience the divine radiance, they were mostly backdoor entries, far from meeting the qualifications to be admitted into the martial temple. However, the divine radiance of the martial ancestor was extremely special. Even without any martial talent, just coming into contact with it could still provide a significant boost to one's abilities. Facing the martial ancestor's divine radiance, there were no prerequisites. Even cultivators on the immortal path could feel its effects. It's my turn, it's my turn. Hurry up in front, the divine radiance is about to extinguish. Those who had entered through the back door to experience the divine radiance began urging each other on. Those martial prodigies who felt the divine radiance did not dare to utter half a word, for even a single interjection could result in their expulsion from the martial temple. But now, those entering were all backdoor entrants. With the time of exposure to the divine radiance being fixed, naturally it was better the quicker the front moved. On another side of the mountain peak, several high-ranking officials from the martial temple watched patiently for a while. They soon lost interest. Those who entered through the back door to experience the divine radiance generally had a compatibility with martial Tao no higher than 10%. The ancient ancestor once said, "All creatures are entitled to cultivate the martial Tao," a figure murmured to himself. This was also why they tolerated those who entered through the back door to experience the divine radiance. Just because you are not a martial prodigy, doesn't mean you cannot receive guidance from the martial ancestors' path. At the lower plaza, it was finally Lin Yuan's turn to enter and feel the martial ancestors' divine radiance. "Son, don't stress. Just feel it casually." Shenzhen cheered Lin Yuan on. "Just feel it casually." Lin Jianping's lips twitched. This was an opportunity he had exchanged for with almost half of his wealth. Yet, to ease Lin Yuan's nerves, Lin Jianping still said, "Your mother is right, don't be under any pressure." "Okay, got it." Lin Yuan nodded and proceeded through the gate. Hum, hum, hum. 7 statues emitted a faint divine glow. The old man in a black robe stood beside them. "Sit here and close your eyes to feel it," the man in the black robe said calmly, his tone unfluctuating. clearly having repeated this many times. Sit over there. Lin Yuan glanced at the 7 statues, his brows slightly furrowed. Because he had no idea how to feel it. To others who came here, the divine radiance seemed filled with endless mysteries. But for Lin Yuan, that martial ancestor's divine radiance was something he had grown tired of centuries ago. Just like a high school student being asked to do middle school problems would need intense concentration, a PhD student could see through them at a glance. Conversations about contemplating it were unnecessary. How should I feel it? Lin Yuan thought for a moment, then decided to ask once more. Just close your eyes, the divine radiance will naturally resonate with you. The man in the black robe patiently explained. All right. Lin Yuan, following the norm, sat before the statues. The omnipresent martial ancestor's divine radiance quickly enveloped Lin Yuan, gradually beginning to resonate with him. However, the next moment, all 7 statues stalled simultaneously. Even the omnipresent divine radiance suddenly froze. What? The man in the black robe, who was expecting Lin Yuan to finish quickly so the next person could commence, suddenly widened his eyes, staring incredulously at the scene before him. Boom, boom, boom. Following the initial pause, all 7 statues emitted a brilliance, the light from each filling to 12/10 of their capacity. Threads of the divine radiance of the martial ancestor continuously wrapped around Lin Yuan, as if commanded, gathering at his feet. What exactly did you feel from the divine radiance? The black-robed man's spirit trembled as he looked at Lin Yuan, who seemed divine, and asked unconsciously. What kind of divine light? Lin Yuan glanced at the man in the black robe. He remained silent. I am the martial ancestor. What divine radiance to feel? Chapter 451 He was born for the martial Tao. Please subscribe, on the other side of the summit. The initially disinterested figures, each occupied in their own conversations, barely paid attention to the one sensing the martial ancestor's divine radiance. There was no helping it. Behind the first group of invited martial Tao geniuses, many of the censors who had gotten through back doors performed dismally. None of them had a martial Tao compatibility of more than 10%. If the martial ancestor's divine radiance wasn't so crucial, requiring their supervision upon activation, they probably would have left a long time ago. It's about to end. The leading figure was the great supreme elder of the martial temple, ranking just below the 3 who were out waging war in the 7th stage martial Tao. He glanced casually at the sight of the martial ancestor's divine radiance below. The next moment, the great supreme elder's pupils constricted sharply. In his sight, strands of the martial ancestor's divine radiance bubbled up as one divine statue after another began to emit 12-fold radiance. For a moment, inside the walls, at the site where the 7 divine statues were placed, the martial ancestor's divine radiance nearly spilled out. What's this? The great supreme elder's heart shook with awe. The only possible reason for the martial ancestor's divine radiance to be actively attracted was the presence of a censor with overwhelmingly powerful martial talent, causing the full revival of the divine radiance. This event had taken place several times over the past 100,000 years, but the attraction to the martial ancestor's divine radiance never reached the scale of today. Divine statues blooming with 12-fold light, and 7 statues at that. Am I dreaming? Another supreme elder murmured to himself. The 7 divine statues represent 7 different directions of martial Tao. Such as prowess in killing, excellence in defense, mastery over domains, and so on. Since the establishment of the martial temple, indeed, there have been examiners who caused several divine statues to simultaneously bloom with radiance, but that was at most 3 or 4 statues, and each statue's radiance did not exceed 70%. Like now. 12-fold radiance. And all 7 statues at that. Genius. The strongest talent ever since the founding of our martial temple. The several Supreme Elders quickly recovered, and as strong martial Tao 6th rank experts, they should not have been so flustered. But the scene unfolding before them was simply too inconceivable. In front of the 7 divine statues, Lin Yuan quietly felt the submission emanating from the martial ancestors' divine radiance. The so-called martial ancestors' divine radiance was nothing more than the traces of the Tao and law that Lin Yuan had left on the 7 divine statues, now stimulated by an external force. It was sensitizing him to the most suitable physique and talent for martial Tao cultivation. Ever since the consciousness descent, Lin Yuan was not only steadily recovering his strength but also allowing this physical body to undergo metamorphosis. As the once ancestor of martial arts, the direction in which Lin Yuan would transform his body would undoubtedly be the most suitable for martial Tao. The performance of the martial ancestors' divine radiance merely reflected the breadth of an ultimate physique within the martial Tao cultivation system. Such a physique was basically impossible to be born naturally, only appearing under the guidance of Lin Yuan, the ancestor of martial arts. Of course, this was unknown to outsiders, and even those 3 7th-rank old ancestors were clueless. By the side, the elder in a black robe was still engulfed in incredible shock. Having activated the martial ancestors' divine radiance so many times, he had never felt such a scene within the divine radiance before. And the fact that all 7 statues burst forth with 12-fold light also left this black-robed elder somewhat befuddled. For an examiner to make a statue shine with 12-fold light was rare enough for tens of thousands of years, but to have all 7 statues do so. Just as the black-robed elder wondered what to do next, several figures appeared silently beside him, their eyes burning with fervent gaze upon Lin Yuan. A martial Tao talent the likes of which had never been seen before. Heaven blesses our martial temple, heaven blesses our martial Tao. These sudden figures were the Supreme Elders of the martial temple. Supreme Elders, the elder in the black robe couldn't help but startle. Then he quickly realized. If even he had noticed the anomaly in the martial ancestors' divine radiance, how could the Supreme Elders have missed it? You may leave. The lead Great Supreme Elder gave the black-robed elder a glance. Yes. The black-robed elder bowed immediately and quickly exited. Young friend. The Great Supreme Elder conjured a trace of a gentle smile and greeted Lin Yuan before he seriously said, I wonder if you would be willing to join our martial temple? Having said this, including the Great Supreme Elder himself, a tinge of nervousness appeared on all their faces. With the influence of the martial temple, they could indeed force Lin Yuan to join. As the heaven of Xianyao City, who would dare refuse the martial temple's decree? But that was something they did to outsiders. Given Lin Yuan's currently revealed terrifying talent, he would likely take charge of the martial temple in the future. In such a case, who would dare to coerce? Did they not fear retribution later on? For a peerless martial Tao genius who could revive the martial temple, coercion was the most foolish method. Join the martial temple. Lin Yuan looked towards the Supreme Elders of the martial temple. In fact, with his grasp over his own powers, he could have completely blocked the sensing of the martial ancestors' divine radiance. But Lin Yuan did not. The aim was to attract the attention of the martial temple and then join it, utilizing the temple's vast cultivation resources to swiftly recover his strength. The martial temple existed precisely to transcend the martial Tao cultivation system. It was inherently a force under Lin Yuan's command. It even matched part of Lin Yuan's plans for the future. In this journey, he had also planned to spread the martial path evolutionary path. With the martial temple at his disposal, Lin Yuan could avoid many detours. There was no need to start from scratch to build a force and then propagate the martial Tao. I am willing, Lin Yuan nodded and said. Willing. The Great Supreme Elder and the other Supreme Elders exchanged glances, their hearts easing with immense relief. Chapter 452 He, born for the martial Tao. Please subscribe, _2 outside the walls, everyone was anxiously waiting. The duration of the martial ancestors' divine radiance was limited. The more time wasted by those in front, the less time available for those behind to experience it. Now, more than half an hour had passed since the last person entered, and if it dragged on much longer, the martial ancestors' divine radiance would likely come to an end. Chang'er couldn't have caused any trouble, could he? Lin Jianping's heart skipped a beat, and he could only hope silently. Outside, with the Lin family's means, as long as the trouble Lin Yuan caused wasn't too great, they could basically smooth things over. But this place was the martial temple, where even a randomly grabbed person had more background and status than the Lin family. If Lin Yuan caused trouble here, Lin Jianping felt his scalp tingle at the thought. It couldn't be. Shenzhen quietly reassured him from beside. However, similar worries surfaced in her heart. The time Lin Yuan spent perceiving the martial ancestors' divine radiance was extraordinarily long. It was hard not to let one's thoughts drift in that direction. Before long, the old man clad in the black robe came out. To everyone, he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the martial ancestors' divine radiance has ended. You may all return." Ended? So soon. It wasn't this quick in previous years, was it? Although the waiting crowd felt extremely reluctant, they dared not question it. What kind of joke would that be, to question the martial temple? Did they no longer wish to live? It's over. Upon hearing this, Lin Jianping looked confused. Where's my son? He hadn't seen Lin Yuan come out from the beginning to the end. Lin Yuan hadn't emerged, yet it was over. Lin Jianping wanted to ask but didn't dare to. He could only continue to wait in place. Soon, the others began to leave one after the other. It's over. Chang'er must have really gotten into trouble. Lin Jianping felt a chill in his heart, and Shenzhen's face also looked troubled. If there had been no trouble, their son should have come out by now. Just as the two decided to summon the courage to inquire what had happened, the black-robed old man hurried over to Lin Jianping and Shenzhen and said with a somewhat respectful demeanor, "Are you Lin Chang's parents? Please come with me." The tone of the black-robed old man was gentle, utterly lacking the haughtiness he exhibited towards those other people. He was well aware that given Lin Yuan's performance during the perception of the martial ancestors' divine radiance, his future status in the martial temple could be described as immeasurable. Therefore, at this moment, his attitude towards Lin Yuan's parents had to be without any overstepping, or else he would be laying the groundwork for his own trouble. "We are," Lin Jianping hastily said. This black-robed old man was a steward of the martial temple, and elders and patriarchs from big families in Xianyao City were as reserved as grandsons meeting their grandfathers in front of him. Yet now, such an important figure was speaking to him with such a gentle tone. This made Lin Jianping feel as if he were dreaming. After exchanging a few brief pleasantries, the black-robed old man straightforwardly said, "Lin Chang is a martial Tao prodigy, you need not worry." The black-robed elder refrained from revealing too much, only releasing bits of seemingly trivial information to stabilize their emotions. "My son, a martial Tao prodigy." Lin Jianping blinked and couldn't react for a long while. Shenzhen beside him felt the same. They knew what their son was like, didn't they? Deeper within the martial temple, several supreme elders gathered here once again. After personally taking Lin Yuan to the temple's highest-class cultivation cave dwelling, they came here. Lin Chang, Father Lin Jianping, information about Lin Yuan appeared before the supreme elders. Even though Lin Yuan's martial talent and innate abilities left them unable to calm down for a long time, the most basic background investigation still needed to be done. Even if, in the view of the supreme elders, this background check didn't mean much, no matter what hidden dangers were in Lin Yuan's identity, they had decided to keep this unprecedented martial Tao prodigy in the martial temple at all costs. Looking at the current situation, he comes from a clean background, born and raised in Xianyao City. The second supreme elder was very satisfied. Certainly, they had been prepared for the worst-case scenarios, such as problems with Lin Yuan's background or some sort of enemy. No matter what, the martial temple would protect him. But without these complications, all the better. What should we do next? The third Supreme Elder asked. The martial temple, as the place of martial Tao heritage, already had a complete process for cultivating disciples. When to do what, which techniques to practice, and so on. All were provided with detailed guidance. However, given the talent displayed by Lin Yuan, the several Supreme Elders felt that following the past few sets of disciple cultivation procedures was simply a waste. Let's do this. We few old fellows will personally teach him, how about that? The great Supreme Elder suddenly spoke up. Personally teach him. No problem. I too want to see what differentiates a martial Tao prodigy who makes all 7 statues shine with 120% of their brilliance, the Supreme Elders readily agreed. In a high-grade cultivation cave dwelling, Lin Yuan was seated cross-legged in this place. The cultivation environment here is very suitable for martial Tao cultivators. Lin Yuan felt it for a while, and a smile appeared on his face. Xianyao City wasn't established above a spirit vein, hence the spiritual energy wasn't abundant, but there was a kind of vitality that's extremely nourishing for martial Tao cultivators. Especially in this cave dwelling, if Lin Yuan were to let himself absorb freely, not to mention restoring to the 8th layer, at least reaching the 7th rank would be as easy as turning his hand over, and definitely wouldn't take more than 50 years. Choosing to have my consciousness come directly to the spirit realm seems to have been the right decision. The cultivation environment of this world far surpasses that of the lower realms of the central divine continent, Lin Yuan thought to himself. Indeed, Lin Yuan could also have his consciousness descend to the lower realms in the central divine continent and then take over Jun Wuji's body, instantly gaining 7th rank strength. And then ascend to the higher realms. But there are significant disadvantages to that approach, namely that Jun Wuji's body, the domain he established at the 7th rank, was an erroneous one. Far inferior to the perfected perfect 7th stage in the main world. Furthermore, ascending to the spirit realm through the ascension platform still involves risks, and breaking through space, smuggling oneself directly from the void into the spirit realm similarly involves risks. After much deliberation, directly descending consciousness to the spirit realm was the best choice. Although starting off lower, now with the help of the martial temple, recovering to the 8th layer wouldn't take long. The next day, the great Supreme Elder took the initiative to visit Lin Yuan. How do you feel? The great Supreme Elder asked kindly. Other disciples, even core disciples, needed to stay at the martial academy and undergo various tests when they joined the martial temple. But of course, Lin Yuan didn't need to do those things, as the Supreme Elders themselves were to be his masters. Now that the great Supreme Elder had come over, he planned to personally instruct Lin Yuan and give him a complete impression of the martial Tao cultivation system. Not bad. Lin Yuan nodded. The environment here was indeed quite good. Have you looked at those books? The great Supreme Elder glanced at a bookshelf not far away, filled with jade slips that held a vast amount of information related to martial Tao. One only needed to press a jade slip against their forehead to read it. Yes. Lin Yuan said. The information in those jade slips had helped Lin Yuan roughly familiarize himself with the current martial Tao. Then tell me, what have you learned? The great Supreme Elder intentionally tested Lin Yuan and asked. The explanation of martial Tao is somewhat one-sided, Lin Yuan said. Oh. One-sided. The great Supreme Elder became interested. Martial Tao should encompass all things to grow, all things to thrive, that is the essence of martial Tao, Lin Yuan stated calmly. All things to grow, all things to thrive. An intrigued light flickered in the eyes of the great Supreme Elder. Of all the paths in the spirit realm, aside from the exalted immortal path, who dared to comment on their path in such a manner? What do you mean by all things to grow? The great Supreme Elder continued to inquire. Time and space, yin and yang, the five elements. Lin Yuan's pace of speech didn't fluctuate and he spoke in a deliberate and measured manner. More than an hour later, the great Supreme Elder walked out of the cave dwelling looking somewhat dazed. How did it go? How did it go? How did the teaching go? What's his understanding of martial Tao like? The Supreme Elders were quite curious. His understanding of martial Tao. The great Supreme Elder looked around at his fellow elders and finally, with an indescribable tone, said, "He is born from martial Tao." Chapter 453 Centuries of Time. Subscribe please. Born from martial Tao. Several Supreme Elders were stunned. This evaluation could not be considered anything less than high. Placed within the realm of the immortal path, it denoted a dazzlingly brilliant unparalleled genius, an immortal king's seed. Though martial Tao was not as esteemed as the immortal path, this acclaim was not something everyone could bear. Do you not believe it? The great Supreme Elder glanced at them and sighed softly. Honestly, before he taught Lin Yuan, he also did not believe there was any martial Tao cultivator in the world who could be described thus. But afterward, the great Supreme Elder truly realized, Lin Yuan was indeed such a person. Wait till tomorrow, after you have taught him, then you will understand. The great Supreme Elder shook his head slightly and strode away. In the following time, several Supreme Elders of the martial temple tried in succession to teach Lin Yuan. But the outcomes often left a sour taste, as they posed questions to Lin Yuan, who would ponder briefly before providing answers. However, whenever Lin Yuan casually returned a question, the Supreme Elders would think for a long time, struck dumb without an explanation, and ultimately it was Lin Yuan who provided the answers. As for his progression in martial Tao cultivation, Lin Yuan made leaps and bounds, with the martial temple providing a full array of resources. His advancement rate was terrifying. In less than a year, he had traversed a path that ordinary martial Tao geniuses might not cover in decades. What the Supreme Elders did not know was that the cultivation speed showcased by Lin Yuan was deliberately shown. As for his true cultivation speed, it was far more frightening than what they could imagine. Martial Temple Guest Hall. Lin Yuan sat casually. Lin Jianping and Xin Jin were visibly exhilarated. Chang Er, you don't know, the clan head of the Zhao family, he was so nice to me, all because of you, Chang Er. Lin Jianping looked at his son with an indescribable happiness. In his life, the most correct decision was to let Lin Yuan experience the martial ancestors' divine radiance. Though till this day, he did not know what position Lin Yuan held in the martial temple, or what level of disciple he had become after joining. But as time passed, under Lin Yuan's casual guidance, the martial temple showed subtle signs of closeness to the Lin family. This alerted the major families and powers in Xianyao City. Those who previously looked down upon the Lin family, now treated them well. Is that so? Lin Yuan said with a smile. Currently, his status in the martial temple was quite special. Not a disciple, but personally taught by several supreme elders of the martial temple. Theoretically, Lin Yuan's seniority and qualification should be considered on par with this generation's Lord of the Martial Temple. With just a word from Lin Yuan, even the Lord of the Martial Temple would not dare to object. The family chatted for a while. Then Xinjin pulled Lin Jianping to get up and leave. Chang Er, you must take good care of yourself in the Martial Temple. Xinjin still felt a pang of heartache for Lin Yuan. She had heard that the competition within the martial temple was fierce. Even those core disciples had to pay a huge price to obtain what they wanted. Now that her son could influence the martial temple, the price he must have paid was imaginable. Don't worry, I am doing quite well inside, Lin Yuan said. Even as Lin Yuan said this, Xinjin's eyes turned redder, feeling that Lin Yuan was just putting on a brave front. After seeing off his parents, Lin Yuan then returned to his cultivation cave dwelling. This world, after developing for tens of thousands of years, has explored many different pathways for martial Tao. Lin Yuan fell into thought. Joining the martial temple for nearly half a year, besides his daily cultivation to restore his strength, he observed the changes in the current martial Tao cultivation system. Although Lin Yuan was the founder of martial Tao, initially he had only laid down the first ranked chapter to the 7th ranked chapter. The 7th ranked chapter was only a beginning, and the initially established 7th ranked chapter was hardly perfect. After returning to the main world, Lin Yuan created a satisfying 7th ranked chapter. It's a pity, so many years have passed, and yet no 8th layer part has emerged, Lin Yuan thought silently to himself. As far as Lin Yuan knew, the strongest in today's martial Tao were but 3 7th rank martial Tao. These 3 7th ranks, the strongest one named Li Qing, was originally Lin Yuan's direct disciple from the lower realms. As for the other 2, they were later generations of 7th rank, who he taught after ascending to the spirit realm. Of the 3 7th ranks, Li Qing was at the 7th rank peak, while the other 2 hovered in the mid to late 7th rank. 7th rank peak. Lin Yuan looked thoughtful. The path of martial Tao that Li Qing followed was what Lin Yuan had initially left behind. Although it was just the beginning of the 7th rank, Lin Yuan's final assumptions for the continuation of the 7th rank made it not too difficult for Li Qing to reach the 7th rank peak. It was undoubtedly easier than creating the 7th rank chapter from nothing. Of course, since Lin Yuan's originally left behind 7th rank chapter was not perfect, it almost made it impossible for Li Qing to step into the 8th rank. Even in the main world, the 8th rank was a very critical stage, with the 8th rank evolution path being a prerequisite for the major evolvers. That's also right, though this world has passed tens of thousands of years, the martial Tao is ultimately not considered a strong path, without enough beings investing in it, and with the 7th rank chapter having taken a detour, it is not surprising that no 8th rank part emerged. Lin Yuan thought silently to himself. He could step into the 8th rank because his 7th rank was almost perfect, combined with against heaven's understanding, as well as the numerous cultivation conditions in the main world, and ultimately the countless evolution paths within the body of a supreme being. With so many factors enhancing him, it enabled Lin Yuan to achieve what he has achieved today. As for the martial Tao of the spirit realm, if Lin Yuan had not had a consciousness descent this time, it would probably take another 1,000,000 years without any martial Tao cultivator stepping into the 8th rank. Chapter 454 Centuries of Time. Subscribe please. _2, the 8th stage of martial arts should correspond to the Transcendence Tribulation stage in the Immortal Cultivation system, right? Lin Yuan thought of the Immortal Cultivation system. The Transcendence Tribulation stage is also known as the Immortal King. Tribulation Transcending Celestial King. Even when surveying the 3,000 Tao provinces of the spirit realm, the Tribulation Transcending Celestial King stands at the absolute summit. To step into the Transcendence Tribulation stage, one must transcend both the heart demon tribulation and the bodily tribulation. Only then can one break through to the Transcendence Tribulation stage and assume the position of an immortal king. This is similar to the need to overcome the heart demon tribulation when advancing from the 7th rank to the 8th rank. Lin Yuan pondered in his heart. The difference is that advancing from the 7th rank to the 8th rank only requires overcoming the heart demon tribulation, whereas the true immortals of Tao integration in the spirit realm must also face an additional bodily tribulation. Tribulation Transcending Celestial Kings, wielding the power of creation, overlooking the spirit realm, and even capable of divine travel through hundreds of thousands of lower realms. Lin Yuan thought of what he had read about the Tribulation Transcending Celestial Kings. This information was collected by the Martial Temple. Although the martial Tao cultivation system is different from the immortal cultivation system, those who came later still hold the top-tier experts of Tao with awe. I wonder what the difference is between a Tribulation Transcending Celestial King and an 8th rank evolver. Lin Yuan was curious. The cultivation system is different, so naturally, the abilities displayed at each stage are also different. If a tribulation-transcending celestial king corresponds to the 8th rank, that's only a rough equivalence in terms of combat power. As for the specific details and techniques, only a personal confrontation would tell. Power of creation. Lin Yuan stroked his chin. This power is the core strength of a tribulation-transcending celestial king, the greatest confidence for immortal king-level powerhouses to overlook all beings. Is it another term for the power of the world, or simply another type of energy? Do tribulation-transcending celestial kings not have their own inner worlds at all? Lin Yuan's thoughts fluctuated. The most powerful method of the 8th rank evolvers is the power of the world cultivated within their inner worlds. But as for the power of creation held by the tribulation-transcending celestial kings, its true nature remains unknown. The martial temple's level is after all not high, it cannot gather detailed information about the immortal king-level powerhouses. Deep within the martial temple, several supreme elders gathered together again. Chang'er's talent is too strong, we're unable to teach him anymore. The second supreme elder was silent for a while before speaking the truth. They are all martial practitioners of the 6th stage martial Tao, equivalent to ancient saints of the nether refinement period. In the spirit realm, ancient saints of the nether refinement period can also dominate a region. At least within a city like Xianyao City, a battle prowess of the ancient saints level is considered top-notch. But facing Lin Yuan, they all felt a bit intimidated. Lin Yuan's learning capability and cultivation speed are too fast. So fast that it made them doubt how they had lived through the years. So what should we do? The third supreme elder asked. Now the only option is to ask the 3 ancestors for guidance. Perhaps only the 3 ancestors are qualified to teach Chang'er. The great supreme elder spoke. The 3 ancestors. The remaining supreme elders were inwardly startled. The 3 ancestors here naturally refer to the 3 7th stage martial Tao strong practitioners. The founders of the martial temple. However, currently, these 3 7th stage martial Tao practitioners are all battling for the Daoed Immortal sect. Daoed Immortal sect has protected Xianyao City for many years, not only because a true immortal of considerable prominence within the sect negotiated an agreement with that mysterious martial ancestor, but also because of the merits the 3 ancestors had established for the Daoed Immortal sect over the years. Now, it seems only the 3 ancestors can teach him. The third supreme elder sighed. Anyway, they didn't dare to continue teaching. Otherwise, they would undoubtedly risk damaging their own state of mind. It's too exaggerated. If they hadn't confirmed that Lin Chang's soul and body were perfectly integrated, they would suspect that Lin Chang might have been seized by some old monster. In the spirit realm, seizure is not an uncommon occurrence. I will contact the 3 ancestors right away. Seeing that the other supreme elders had no objections, the great supreme elder stood up and said. The 3 ancestors are engaged in external battles. If there is no major issue, they are not to be disturbed, but the matter concerning Lin Yuan is considered a major issue by the supreme elders. Within the cave dwelling, Lin Yuan, in addition to cultivating, was also sensing the great Tao rules of the spirit realm. Taiyin rule. Lin Yuan's mind stirred, and streams of the extremely yin and pure power of Taiyin converged in the depths of his pupils, merging with the power of Taiyang to form the power of Taiji. I didn't expect that not long after arriving, I would comprehend the Taiyin rule. Lin Yuan was in a good mood. Despite spending nearly 20 years in seclusion in the main world without comprehending the Taiyin rule, he had managed to grasp it not long after crossing over. However, my current strength is too weak to condense the rules. Otherwise, it would be interesting to see what will happen when the Taiyin rule merges with the Taiyang rule. Will it form a new rule? The Taiji rule. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. The rules of the Great Tao are elusive. To condense a certain rule, one must first thoroughly understand it, and second, possess a body and soul capable of carrying that rule. Of course, Lin Yuan wasn't able to condense the Taiyin rule just yet, but he could still use it. Once a certain rule is fully understood, even a mortal can, in every action, align with this rule and unleash a power that far exceeds their limits. This traversal does allow for the awakening of a new physical body divine ability. Lin Yuan seemed to think of something, and his eyes lit up slightly. The sixth-stage martial Tao chapter draws from the essence of body cultivation, enabling the condensation of divine physical body abilities that belong to a martial Tao cultivator. So far, Lin Yuan had condensed 2 physical body divine abilities. The first one is blood rebirth. The second is mountain moving. The former had brought tremendous help to Lin Yuan, even the opening of that mysterious gourd relied on the blood rebirth ability. Then there's that gourd. Lin Yuan's consciousness sank into the depths of his mind, looking at the towering and massive door to the myriad realms. If Lin Yuan wished, he could use a strand of world-breaking origin force at any time to bring over the mysterious gourd. But after some thought, Lin Yuan decided to wait a while more. His current strength was still too weak, and the mysterious gourd was too precious. It would be better to wait until he had sufficient power to protect himself in this world before considering it. Cultivate, cultivate. Lin Yuan's thoughts converged, and he started cultivating again. Although he was under the protection of the martial temple now and did not need to worry about safety, there were still many things waiting for Lin Yuan to do, and all these things required strength. On the edge of the Xianwang domain. Inside a palace. 3 figures were sitting cross-legged, their qi and blood circulating and faintly vibrating in all directions. The martial temple has sent me a message. The first figure on the left opened his eyes and spoke. The martial temple. Has something big happened? The first figure on the right also opened his eyes. They had long told the martial temple not to contact them lightly unless something significant happened. What's the matter? The figure in the middle opened her eyes and asked slowly. This figure was a stunningly beautiful woman, who was none other than Li Qing, the direct disciple Lin Yuan had once accepted. They say that the martial temple has received a once-in-an-age genius, who upon perceiving the martial ancestors' divine radiance, caused 7 divine statues to tremble, all aglow with 12-fold brilliance, the figure on the left explained. All 7 divine statues radiant with 12-fold brilliance. The tonality of the figure on the right wavered slightly. Even he had only managed to make 1 divine statue tremble and shine with 12-fold brilliance back in his day. Indeed a once-in-an-age genius. Li Qing nodded and said, "What does the martial temple want us to do?" "They want one of us to go back and personally instruct this genius," the figure on the left said. "Go back, one of us." Li Qing frowned slightly. "The battle with the other great realms is at a critical moment. We cannot leave, not even our primordial spirits can depart." "In that case, reply to the martial temple that in 100 years, I will personally return to guide this once-in-an-age genius," Li Qing said. She valued martial arts geniuses highly. Perhaps influenced by Lin Yuan in the past, Li Qing was willing to offer each martial Dao cultivator the chance to advance further. 100 years. Yes, in 100 years, the conflict will mostly cease, and by then, the 3 of us can return to see for ourselves. Let that once-in-an-age genius cultivate on their own for these 100 years, and when we return later, we will personally guide them, the figure on the right said. "No problem," the figure on the left nodded. 100 years was nothing. That once-in-an-age genius might just be beginning to comprehend the martial Dao. Their return would be just in time to provide guidance at a critical moment. Years passed by. In the blink of an eye, 100 years had passed since Lin Yuan arrived in this world. Chapter 455 Lin Yuan's Strength. Please subscribe. An underground world spanning tens of thousands of miles, with only Lin Yuan sitting cross-legged alone within it. The terrifying aura emanating from his body caused the space itself to distort slightly. 8th Stage Martial Tao, has already reached the second layer. Lin Yuan reined in his aura and nodded in satisfaction. The Immortal Path skill does indeed play a significant role in perfecting the 8th layer part. However, beginning from the second layer of the 8th layer part, the difficulty of expansion skyrockets. But with Against Heaven's understanding, this is merely a matter of time and persistence. In Lin Yuan's conception, the 8th stage martial Tao consisted of 4 stages, similar to most evolution paths of the main world's 8th layer part. But for the specific content of cultivation, Lin Yuan had pushed it to the utmost limit that he could possibly achieve at present. If it were just to create an ordinary 8th rank evolutionary path, there would be no need to expend so much effort. However, the 8th stage martial Tao was a critical phase in Lin Yuan's cultivation journey, so naturally, he couldn't skimp on effort. My current realm has also surged into the second layer of the 8th rank, he said. Had it not been for his encounter with the spirit realm's immortal cultivation system and other cultivation systems, which allowed Lin Yuan to reshape the martial path evolutionary path multiple times, it would have probably taken him several more decades to reach this level. However, when I returned to the 8th rank, I did not re-experience the heart demon tribulation, nor the bodily tribulation, required by a tribulation transcending celestial king, Lin Yuan said as he stroked his chin, deep in thought. Lin Yuan had a guess about why the bodily tribulation hadn't descended. This type of tribulation was meant for immortal path cultivators. Although Lin Yuan drew on numerous essences from the immortal cultivation system, his foundation still lay in the martial path evolutionary path, thus he didn't need to face the bodily tribulation common to immortal path cultivators. As for the heart demon tribulation, Lin Yuan felt that his spirit will had already undergone transformation and likewise didn't need to experience it again. I've been residing for over 900 years, and only 100 years have passed, so I still have ample time to perfect the next 3 stages of the 8th layer part, he said. Lin Yuan was confident about this. Once the 8th layer part is perfected, the martial path evolutionary path will transform into an 8th rank evolutionary path which I reckon could hold its own amidst all of humanity's 8th rank evolutionary paths throughout history. Lin Yuan stood up and exited the underground world to surface above ground. This underground world was an ancient sect's ruin that Lin Yuan had stumbled upon unintentionally over 90 years ago. Thereafter, Lin Yuan transformed it into his usual practice area. Space. With a single step, Lin Yuan entered, following the spatial fluctuations, and in almost an instant, arrived outside Xianyao City. The underground world where Lin Yuan cultivated was at least tens of millions of miles away from Xianyao City, but with his mastery over space rules, it was just a single step. In the past 100 years, apart from recovering his strength and perfecting the 8th stage martial Tao, Lin Yuan never ceased his perception of the space rules. The core spatial models that Lin Yuan had comprehended had exceeded 4,000, and thereby, his inner world expanded to about 4 million miles in circumference. The 4 million miles here referred purely to the size of the inner world, supported entirely by space rules. And it had not been amplified by that mysterious gourd of the main world. If we consider the 5-fold basic amplification prior to teleportation, Lin Yuan's inner world size should be about 20 million miles in circumference. An inner world of 20 million miles in circumference far exceeded the human evolver's limit of 10 million miles for an inner world. The cosmic force born from such a vast inner world could likely withstand a few blows from an unbeatable 8th ranker. I should have time to bring over that mysterious gourd. Lin Yuan walked into Xianyao City, thinking to himself. 100 years ago, Lin Yuan's power was insufficient, so he did not bring the mysterious gourd over, worried about unexpected events. But now, even a tribulation transcending celestial king looking down upon the spirit realm would not intimidate Lin Yuan. This time's recultivated physical body divine ability, Lin Yuan's thoughts were in motion. In the 6th rank chapter, one would condense a physical body divine ability derived from one's bloodline. Different physiques, different bloodlines, naturally resulted in different physical body divine abilities. In the central divine China world, Lin Yuan's condensed physical body divine ability was blood rebirth. On his main world's true body, the physical body divine ability Lin Yuan condensed was mountain moving. And now, in the 8th live's reincarnation within the spirit realm, Lin Yuan's condensed physical body divine ability was strengthening. Once the strengthening divine skill is activated, everything about Lin Yuan, from physical strength to vital energy, to soul, to spirit will, would surge tenfold. Even the cosmic force within his inner world would receive a tenfold enhancement. Although the strengthening divine skill's duration is not long, just 10 breaths, and Lin Yuan's strength would slightly weaken by about 20 to 30% after the skill ends, there is no doubt this divine skill is an ace in the hole. In a battle between the strong, moments can determine victory or defeat, let alone 10 breaths. And with the physical strength, vital energy, soul, and spirit will all augmenting tenfold together, the impact on strength is definitely far more complex than just a simple tenfold increase. Owning such a divine skill, even an ordinary 8th rank peak evolver, could challenge the unbeatable 8th rankers. Of course, this is just within the duration of the divine skill's activation, but it's still unimaginable, akin to a substitute for cosmic force. What's more crucial is that the strengthening divine skill will become increasingly significant as one's power grows. An 8th rank peak when utilizing this divine skill can match an unbeatable 8th ranker within 10 breaths. But what about a 9th rank evolver? For the following period, apart from perfecting the martial path evolutionary path, my primary task is to thoroughly comprehend this divine skill and condense a divine ability imprint Lin Yuan planned in his heart. Only by condensing a divine ability imprint could he carry this divine skill back to the main world. Lin Yuan remembered that it took him a full 50 years to fully comprehend the blood rebirth divine ability imprint. Chapter 456 Lin Yuan's Strength. Please subscribe. _2 As for the divine skill mountain moving, Lin Yuan had too little time in the main world to fully comprehend the divine ability imprint of mountain moving. He returned to the martial temple. Before long, a few supreme elders made their way over. Elder, Lin Yuan nodded slightly. Over the past century, the supreme elders of the martial temple had treated Lin Yuan quite well, nurturing him almost like the future of the martial temple. If it hadn't been for the support of the martial temple in the early stages, Lin Yuan would have definitely reached this point today, but it would have taken a lot more time. Cultivators of the immortal path need resources, and so do martial Dao cultivators. Especially at the 6th and 7th ranks, when opening up an inner world, the consumption of resources is as vast as mountains and seas. Chang'er, here is the immortal path skill you asked for. The great supreme elder took out several jade slips, looking at Lin Yuan, his gaze uncontrollably showing a trace of trepidation. As early as 70 or 80 years ago, they, the supreme elders, had already found Lin Yuan unfathomable. Lin Yuan had browsed through all the countless martial Tao scriptures recorded in the martial temple, and although they hadn't directly sparred in strength, every close contact with Lin Yuan gave them an inexplicable feeling of palpitation. This sensation had disappeared 60 years ago, but they had no intention of underestimating Lin Yuan. They just felt that Lin Yuan might have achieved the level of returning to the original purity. This was what several elders at the 7th stage martial Tao thought. Unless they deliberately demonstrate their aura, they look no different from ordinary people. Supreme Jade Purity Immortal Scripture. This is the secret core skill of the Supreme Immortal sect. Lin Yuan became interested. In recent decades, Lin Yuan had asked the Supreme Elders to collect as many Immortal Path skills as possible. Although the Supreme Elders did not know what the purpose was for Lin Yuan, a martial path cultivator, to collect Immortal Path skills, Lin Yuan's displayed talent and divine abilities were too frightening for them to harbor any doubts. Lin Yuan quickly browsed through the Supreme Jade Purity Immortal Scripture and finally nodded slightly. Although it ends after the divinity transformation stage, the Supreme Immortal King, as a Supreme Immortal King that commands respect across 3,000 Dao provinces, has indeed created a scripture with value. Lin Yuan commented with a hint of admiration in his voice. Even among tribulation-transcending celestial kings, there are differences in strength, and the supreme immortal kings are the peak powerhouses among those in the tribulation-transcendent stage. Lin Yuan guessed that the supreme immortal kings might correspond to the invincible at the 8th layer in the main world. The Supreme Immortal sect once intended to disseminate the Supreme Jade Purity Immortal Scripture and allowed other cultivators to practice this scripture, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to obtain it, said the Great Supreme Elder, nodding his head. The purpose of the Supreme Immortal sect's move was easy to guess. They were simply scouting for talents across 3,000 Dao provinces suited to cultivate the Supreme Jade Purity Immortal Scripture. The scriptures that the Supreme Immortal sect spread only ranged from the Qi Cultivation chapter to the Mahayana chapter. Even if some idle immortal path cultivators were fortunate enough to begin practicing, the only way to delve further would be to head to the Supreme Clarity Immortal sect. Chang'er, the Great Supreme Elder, hesitated for a moment before he finally asked. What is your current realm, the 7th stage martial Tao? The Great Supreme Elder asked cautiously. In a mere 100 years, reaching the 7th stage of martial arts would have been utterly unbelievable to the Great Supreme Elder in the past. But Lin Yuan's performance in the past century caused the Supreme Elders to entertain such a thought. Being at the 6th rank themselves, and feeling a sense of pressure from him, it was highly probable that Lin Yuan was at the 7th rank. My current realm. Lin Yuan smiled faintly. The other Supreme Elders, upon hearing this, instinctively pricked up their ears to listen. They too were curious about Lin Yuan's current strength. No. Lin Yuan shook his head. He had progressed beyond the 7th stage martial Tao 60 years ago. Not the 7th stage martial Tao. The Great Supreme Elder breathed a sigh of relief, feeling a complex mix of emotions. He hoped Lin Yuan was at the 7th stage martial Tao because that would mean the martial path evolutionary path had birthed another 7th rank ancestor, which would further expand the influence of the martial temple. But rationally, the Great Supreme Elder did not believe that, within merely 100 years, Lin Yuan could have reached the 7th rank, which seemed absolutely inconceivable. Now that Lin Yuan had confirmed it, the doubts in the hearts of the Supreme Elders were no more. From beginning to end. Neither the Great Supreme Elder nor the other Supreme Elders had ever considered that Lin Yuan could be at the 8th stage of martial arts. Because that was simply a fantasy. Ever since the martial path evolutionary path came into existence, the strongest among them was at the 7th rank, stopping at the level of a true immortal on the immortal path. The 8th stage of martial arts. Even the legendary martial ancestor hadn't delved into that, let alone Lin Yuan, such a fledgling who had only practiced for 100 years. If not the 7th rank, then it must be the 6th rank. 100 years to reach the 6th rank. In the martial temple since its establishment, such a cultivation speed can be called unrivaled. The Great Supreme Elder thought silently to himself. Over tens of thousands of years, countless martial Dao prodigies streaked across the sky, but there had never been one that entered the 6th rank within 100 years. The 6th rank of martial Dao corresponds with the level of an ancient saint of refinement void on the immortal path. To reach the level of an ancient saint of refinement void in 100 years, only those monstrous talents on the immortal path, the immortal king seeds, stand a chance of doing so. After the Supreme Elders left, Lin Yuan sat cross-legged in his cave dwelling. My current Dao strength. Lin Yuan began to examine himself, with the help of many methods, even without the amplification from an inner world spanning over 10 million li. Lin Yuan's combat power was approaching invincible at the 8th rank. If he used the divine skill strengthening, within 10 breaths, Lin Yuan's combat power might even far exceed that of an invincible 8th rank. It's just, I wonder what the power of creation wielded by immortal king-level powerhouses is all about. Lin Yuan secretly thought to himself. After years of understanding, Lin Yuan roughly confirmed that tribulation-transcending celestial kings probably did not possess an inner world. What they relied on was the power of creation they wielded. Ordinary immortals wielded portions of the power of creation's might, while supreme immortal kings wielded the complete power of creation. Unfortunately, there are no immortal king-level powerhouses in Dongyun Tao province. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. Even when considering the 3,000 Tao provinces, immortal king-level powerhouses were extremely rare, let alone having such powerhouses stationed in Dongyun Tao province. Otherwise, Lin Yuan would probably try his hand against one or two immortal kings. As for outside Dongyun Tao province, the distance was too far. Even though Lin Yuan's mastery of space rules allowed him to cover millions or tens of millions of li in one step, it would still take a substantial amount of time to reach the next Tao province. With the effort it took to travel that far, Lin Yuan might as well spend more time in secluded cultivation. As for tribulation transcending celestial kings, even if he went to another province, whether he could find a tribulation transcending celestial king was another matter. It's time to bring over that gourd. Lin Yuan thought to himself. Now that his strength was sufficient, at least within the bounds of Dongyun Tao province, he was invincible. Even if there were hidden tribulation transcending celestial kings, it was likely that they couldn't defeat Lin Yuan. Therefore, he currently had the power to protect that mysterious gourd. Thinking this, Lin Yuan's mind began to sink into the depths of his mind. Looking towards that majestic and vast door to the myriad realms. Crossing dimensions, crossing latitudes, beyond imagination. Even though he had observed the door to the myriad realms more than once, Lin Yuan still felt a sense of awe strike him. When he first became an evolver, Lin Yuan looked at the door to the myriad realms and felt only its magnificence and vastness, but now, he saw this gate of light as if it were a colossal entity straddling boundless worlds. Through these 100 years, everything seems normal in the main world, nothing much has happened. Lin Yuan could faintly sense the situation on the side of his true body in the main world through the door to the myriad realms. Let's begin. With a thought, Lin Yuan expended a strand of world-breaking origin force to start transporting the mysterious gourd from the main world to this place. Swish swish. In the center of the door to the myriad realms, space fluctuations faintly emerged. These fluctuations were profound and remote, as if emanating endless mystery. Lin Yuan carefully felt it. This method of transporting items through dimensional latitudes far exceeded his current understanding. By observing a little longer, he might, with his against heaven's understanding, be able to comprehend something new. After a moment, the space fluctuations gradually subsided. A dusky yellow gourd slowly emerged, landing into Lin Yuan's palm. Chapter 457. Is this the prodigy you were talking about? Please subscribe, gourd. Lin Yuan looked at the gray-yellow gourd resting on his palm. The moment it touched Lin Yuan's palm, the originally gray-yellow colored gourd immediately lost its yellow hue and turned into an ordinary-looking gray gourd. It can even sense whether I have absorbed the liquid inside. Lin Yuan was slightly surprised. Based on his experience using the gourd, its surface color depended on the user's degree of absorption of the liquid within. For instance, in the main world, Lin Yuan absorbed an orange-yellow liquid, hence the surface of the gourd also transformed from gray to gray-yellow. Let's begin. Lin Yuan's expression turned solemn. The liquid inside the gray gourd greatly enhanced his combat power. Especially with regard to the expanse of his inner world, which currently spanned 4 million square miles, just returning to the enhancement levels from the main world, would skyrocket his inner world to 20 million square miles. And that was just the enhancement from the orange-yellow liquid, not to mention the other 5 types of liquids. Lin Yuan could hardly imagine, once all 7 types of liquids were thoroughly absorbed, to what extent would his inner world grow. First, a blood drop to confirm eligibility. Lin Yuan gathered his thoughts and let a drop of his blood fall on the surface of the gourd. Only beings whose bloodlines contained the power of rebirth could activate the gourd. For Lin Yuan, the so-called power of rebirth was the essence of the divine skill blood rebirth. This divine skill was thoroughly understood by Lin Yuan and had been replicated onto his body for a century. Whoosh! The verification of the bloodline passed. Lin Yuan immediately noticed the gourd beginning to change. Crimson liquid. Tilting the gourd downward, he soon saw the crimson liquid pooling. Lin Yuan began to absorb it without hesitation. Time passed. Years went by in the blink of an eye. Compared to the centuries before, these few years almost flashed by. Martial Temple Cave Dwelling. Lin Yuan was seated cross-legged, his inner world vast and boundless, now reaching 26 million square miles. One should know, the upper limit for human civilization evolvers was only 10 million square miles due to racial constraints, almost impossible to break through. Yet Lin Yuan's inner world easily reached 26 million square miles, a fact that, if known to the main world human civilization alliance, could likely provoke the intervention of a supreme being. Such means to transcend racial limits, even for a supreme being, required a grievous price, yet could the liquid inside the gourd effortlessly achieve this? Inner world. Lin Yuan's figure solidified. Such an immense cosmic force, Lin Yuan momentarily became engrossed, as in the main world his inner world merely spanned 10 million square miles and was still within the suppression limits for human civilization evolvers. But now, his 26 million square mile inner world, brimming with overwhelming cosmic force, made even Lin Yuan's heart throb. The difference between 10 million square miles and 20 million square miles was certainly more than twice. 8th layer invincible, my current strength, even without employing the strengthening divine skill, should have reached the level of 8th layer invincible, Lin Yuan thought to himself. Theoretically, an inner world spanning tens of millions of square miles could match the potential of an 8th layer invincible. But that would be under the condition of having just an inner world of that magnitude. Solely the overwhelming cosmic force could contest the cosmic force devised by an 8th layer invincible. Lin Yuan's current inner world might be just over 20 million square miles, but he had many other methods at his disposal. Combined combat power already matched that of a typical 8th layer invincible. Only, Lin Yuan slightly raised his head, looking up at the sky above. A sphere formed entirely by the power of Taiyin and the power of Taiyang was hovering there. Ever since Lin Yuan re-entered the 7th rank and began constructing his inner world, the complete Taiyin rule and Taiyang rule manifested in the inner world and started to merge. That was what led to the current scene, transforming into a sphere completely composed of Taiyin and Taiyang. Lin Yuan could feel that within the sphere, as the Taiyin rule and Taiyang rule merged, they began transforming and transcending. So he did not meddle too much. It should be close to completing its transformation. Lin Yuan carefully sensed for a while, each strand of the transformation inside the sphere naturally occurred, and though Lin Yuan could intervene, he knew it was best to observe and let it unfold. Could it really be about to give birth to a brand new rule, the Taiji rule? Lin Yuan speculated in his heart. The Tao of Taiji, an original creation by Lin Yuan, was unlike the elemental forces of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, light, or thunder already existing in the cosmic world. The Tao of Taiji, the Taiji rule, had never appeared before Lin Yuan's creation, whether in the main world or in other traversable worlds. Xianyao City. A luxurious estate. Lin Yuan's figure appeared there. Chang'er, have you come? Shenzhen was watering flowers in the garden. Upon seeing Lin Yuan, she immediately exclaimed in surprise. Lin Jianping was cultivating when he heard Shenzhen's exclamation. Immediately coming out of seclusion and stepping through the door, he too saw Lin Yuan. Chang'er, you haven't been here in a long time, Lin Jianping said with a smile. What's the matter? Too much going on at the martial temple? It's manageable, Lin Yuan shook his head. The affairs of the martial temple weren't managed by him, and even several supreme elders wouldn't interfere with those trivial matters at the martial temple. But meditating occasionally for a few years was nothing unusual. Lin Yuan generally visited his parents every time he finished a meditation retreat. Chang-er, you're working too hard, whether it's cultivating or doing other stuff, you need to focus on resting, who knows, you might achieve even better results. Chapter 458. Is this the prodigy you were talking about? Please subscribe, _2 Shinjin promptly said. Lin Jianping also said with a chuckle, right, son, look at us, we're already enjoying life. I've delegated those matters in the trade association to my subordinates. With you backing us, who dares to slack off? In recent years, Lin Jianping indeed had a particularly comfortable life. His son had become a big shot in the martial temple, and the grand clans of Xianyao City vied to give him money and gifts. The 2 fruits I brought you last time, have you eaten them? Lin Yuan casually asked. Those 2 fruits could extend lifespan and improve physical constitutions. Naturally, they had no effect on Lin Yuan, but for lower-level cultivators like his parents, the benefits were almost transformative. I ate that fruit, and I felt decades younger, son. Lin Jianping's interest was piqued. Do you still have more of those fruits now? What nonsense are you spouting? Such spirit fruit is considered a treasure even in the martial temple. You greedy old man, isn't 1 fruit enough? Do you want to put your son in a difficult position? Shenjin immediately expressed her dissatisfaction. To this day, they were unaware of Lin Yuan's specific status within the martial temple, knowing only that it was not low. This was also intentional on the part of the martial temple's supreme elders, who wished to keep Lin Yuan's identity hidden. For other powers, the emergence of a peerless genius in the martial temple was not a pleasant prospect. Therefore, information about Lin Yuan was kept under wraps until he had fully matured. I'm just asking. Lin Jianping knew the value of such spirit fruits. If you want to eat them, I'll bring some more next time, Lin Yuan said with a slight smile. With his strength now nearly invincible at the 8th layer, obtaining a few life-extending and fundamental reinforcing spirit fruits was a simple task. On the edge of the Xianwang domain, 3 7th-stage martial Tao cultivators gathered together once again. This military campaign is almost over. The 3 of us can finally return, one of the 7th-stage martial Tao cultivators said. His name was Shan Yang, born in the spirit realm, and by a stroke of luck became a disciple of the martial temple. With the temple's nurturing, he spent nearly 100,000 years to step into the 7th stage of martial Tao. Shan Yang felt immense gratitude toward the martial temple. Without it, he would probably have lived no differently from ordinary mortals, passing away after a century and returning to dust. To think that he now possessed terrifying power nearly equivalent to that of a true immortal. Upon our return, we can finally take a good rest, another 7th-stage martial Tao cultivator said sentimentally. Fighting for the Dao Immortal sect, they had to engage in battle with Dao integration true immortals every so often. Even for 7th-stage martial Tao cultivators, such frequent fighting was draining. Didn't they say that the martial temple has accepted a peerless genius? When we return this time, the 3 of us should take some time to give guidance and strive to cultivate another 7th rank for our martial Tao, Li Qing suggested. As a being who ascended from the lower realms, he had received personal guidance from the legendary martial ancestor. Li Qing's strength had reached the 7th rank peak. If not for the lack of a clear path ahead, he would probably have already attempted the ultimate 8th rank. Ha ha ha, I certainly won't forget that, Shan Yang said with a grin. When I return to the martial temple, I plan to take that little guy to travel through the 9 heavens of the vast spirit realm to sense its profound aura. To take the spirit realm as a teacher, Li Qing affirmed with a nod. Although he had no clear idea about the peerless genius of the martial temple, taking the spirit realm as a teacher was surely the right approach. Countless powerful beings had been nurtured in its immensity. Traveling through the 9 heavens of the spirit realm occasionally yielded awakenings even for them as 7th-rank martial Tao cultivators. I just don't know if the kid can withstand it. The aura of the 9 heavens is not something ordinary people can endure, Shan Yang thought again. If he can't handle it, well, just take it slow, advised Li Qing. You also shouldn't disregard his feelings. Don't worry, elderly, I'll be careful, Shan Yang replied with a smile. If he detected that the youngster couldn't bear it, he would immediately halt the journey. I've prepared 3 Qing Tian spirit elixirs, another 7th stage martial Tao cultivator spoke up. His name was Niayun, a being from the spirit realm who had stepped into the 7th stage of martial Tao 20,000 years prior. Qing Tian spirit elixir. That's a foundation establishment divine elixir for those below the 6th rank. It must not have been easy to concoct a batch, Shan Yang expressed slight surprise. Difficult or not, it needed to be done, Nia Yun said with seriousness. For the prosperity of our martial Tao. Even though the martial Tao cultivation system currently had 3 7th-rank ancestors at the helm, it still didn't quite measure up to those colossal entities with millions of years of heritage. Not to mention other forces, the Daoed Immortal sect alone could easily crush the current martial temple. The Daoed Immortal sect had dozens of Dao integration true immortals and more than 5 at the Dao integration peak. Even more critical was the fact that the immortal path they pursued held the potential to ascend to the tribulation transcendence stage. This alone was something the martial Tao cultivation system could never compare with. For the prosperity of our martial Tao, Li Qing said solemnly, emphasizing each word. She vaguely remembered that it was Lin Yuan who had rescued her in the East Sea and taught her martial Tao. Therefore, Li Qing had long considered the things Lin Yuan wished to do as her own, which was to spread the martial Tao cultivation system. It was the same in the world of central divine China. Now, even in the vast spirit realm, Li Qing still regarded this as her lifelong goal. The martial temple. Within the cave dwelling. Lin Yuan continued to attempt absorbing the orange-yellow liquid. Boom, boom, boom. Terrible flames burned within his body, counteracting the regenerative power produced by blood rebirth, and finally, Lin Yuan's form collapsed. Before long, Lin Yuan underwent blood rebirth and returned once again. It looks like it'll be a while before I can fully absorb the orange-yellow liquid. Lin Yuan steadied his mind and slowly recovered from the pain experienced while absorbing the orange-yellow liquid. So far, Lin Yuan's inner world had been subject to a 5.2 times base enhancement. If he completely absorbed the orange-yellow liquid, it would reach a 6.66 times enhancement. At that time, the size of the inner world would approach 26 million li. Let's take a break first. Lin Yuan did not immediately resume the absorption of the orange-yellow liquid. Though the liquid inside the mysterious gourd could continuously enhance the strength of his physical body and inner world, the devastation and suppression it caused to his spirit will grew heavier and heavier, requiring Lin Yuan to rest for several hours after each absorption. The Great Supreme Elder is looking for me. The 3 ancestors have returned. Suddenly, Lin Yuan received a message from the Great Supreme Elder. The 3 7th-stage martial Tao. Li Qing. Lin Yuan's thoughts drifted to the image of Li Qing. At that time, as his Taiyang divine spirit roamed the East Sea, he saw a village on a small island being slaughtered by demonic beasts, and Lin Yuan casually saved them. And Li Qing was from that village. Later on, Lin Yuan discovered that Li Qing had a not inconsiderable talent for martial Tao cultivation, so he took her back to Baiyu Island casually. Let's go take a look. Lin Yuan rose to his feet, walked out of the cave dwelling, and headed towards the martial temple hall. At this moment, inside the martial temple hall, a few supreme elders stood there respectfully. 3 figures were seated in the principal seats. They were the martial temple's 3 7th-rank ancestors. They were Li Qing, Shan Yang, and Nia Yun. "Ancestor, we have informed Lin Chang to come over," said the great Supreme Elder respectfully. I understand." Shan Yang nodded. After meeting him, it'll take him directly to explore the 9 heavens. The 9 heavens of the spirit realm, strictly speaking, are located in different spatial layers, each one featuring unfathomable sights, either the external rules manifesting or the essence of the world revealing itself. For lower-ranking cultivators, going to observe the 9 heavens is akin to a great opportunity. However, the 9 heavens are not so easy to enter. Typically, only true immortals of the Unity realm can enter to explore. As for taking someone along, whether true immortal or 7th rank who wishes to bring juniors into the 9 heavens, they would need to pay a significant price. And the duration is limited. Soon. While waiting for the 3 7th rank ancestors, Lin Yuan's figure appeared, entering the hall. "Good lad." Shan Yang took a careful look at Lin Yuan and burst into hearty laughter. "Old ancestor is giving you a great opportunity. Follow me to explore the 9 heavens." After speaking, Shan Yang's figure vanished on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already standing beside Lin Yuan. Immediately after, Shan Yang grabbed Lin Yuan's shoulder, intending to ascend directly to the 9 heavens. However, the next moment, Shan Yang's expression froze. His right hand resting on Lin Yuan's shoulder trembled slightly. He looked at Lin Yuan as if he had seen a ghost. "Why is he so heavy?" Chapter 459 Born for the Martial Tao. The martial Tao rises because of him. Please subscribe. As a 7th stage martial Tao practitioner endowed with a formidable physique, Shan Yang could easily lift enormous divine mountains weighing hundreds of thousands of feet. That was merely pure strength. If he relied on other means, Shan Yang's power could surge dramatically. This is the difference between martial Tao and the immortal path. Immortal path cultivators focus on the spirit, starting from the golden core stage, through the nascent soul stage, divinity transformation stage, and refining void period, where most of their cultivation concentrates on the spirit. Martial Tao is different. Although it can condense the primordial spirit, it still bases itself fundamentally on the physical body, with vast and ocean-like vigor and blood. However, at this moment, Shan Yang was terrified within. He grabbed Lin Yuan's right hand but couldn't lift it at all. Heavy. Heavy. Exceedingly heavy. It was as if what stood before him was not a person but an entire world. But how could that be possible? A person as heavy as a world. Shan Yang's mind was like a paste, unable to react for a long time. He even doubted whether his strength had declined. "You want to lift me?" Lin Yuan glanced at Shan Yang. His expression revealed a hint of strangeness. How heavy was he? Leaving aside his physical body, as an 8th stage of martial arts, his body had undergone a 5 to 6 times amplification through the mysterious gourd. Every drop of his blood, every strand of hair, by the standards of the main world, weighed over 10,000 tons. The weight of the physical body was actually the lesser concern. The key was the world inside Lin Yuan's body that spanned a circumference of 26 million miles. This world resided inside Lin Yuan. Though it wasn't visible, that didn't mean it didn't exist. Usually, Lin Yuan operated the power of this world, balancing the gravitational pull originating from the spirit realm internal to his body. But it was merely a balance. If an outsider tried to lift Lin Yuan, they would need the strength to lift a world with a 26 million mile circumference. And just how heavy would a world with a 26 million mile circumference be? Probably heavier than several stars combined. Compared to Lin Yuan's strange demeanor, Shan Yang quickly came to a realization. It was not that his strength had waned, but rather that Lin Yuan, whom he considered a young fellow, was indeed excessively heavy. Heavily beyond imagination. so heavy that it surpassed his limits of strength. Therefore, even with all his might, he still could not budge him in the slightest. Not far away, Li Qing and Nia Yun looked at Lin Yuan and Shan Yang, who were caught in a deadlock. In their view, Lin Yuan stood there quietly while Shan Yang held onto his shoulder, seemingly about to straight ascend but then abruptly halted. In the next moment, Shan Yang's figure violently retreated, like a startled rabbit, stopping by Li Qing and Nia Yun's side, staring intensely at Lin Yuan. Who exactly are you? This scene baffled Li Qing and Nia Yun. Then the two of them quickly understood. Li Qing observed Lin Yuan intently and found that she couldn't see through him. The aura emitted by Lin Yuan was flawless and perfect, beyond her insight. For a moment, the two 7th-rank martial Taoists realized the gravity of the situation. The power of their vigor and blood began to spread and envelop the entire martial temple and Xianyao city in an instant. Who am I? Lin Yuan chuckled softly, then said, You needn't send me to the 9 heavens anymore, as my Yin spirit and Yang spirit have been cultivating there for years. The central divine China world has its 9 heavens, a battlefield where ancient saints of refinement void clash. And in the spirit realm, there is also a 9 heavens that is far more mysterious than in the divine continent, containing many marvels that guide the understanding of the essence of the world. Thus, decades ago, Lin Yuan had already sent his Yang god and Yin god to the 9 heavens for enlightenment. Cultivating in the 9 heavens. Shan Yang and Nia Yun exchanged glances, feeling an even greater sense of oppression. Only a 7th rank or a true immortal had the strength to venture to the 9 heavens, but even they could only make brief stays. If they stayed too long, the pressure from the 9 heavens would be unbearable for 7th ranks and true immortals. As for cultivating there, perhaps only a tribulation stage celestial king had the capability to regard the 9 heavens as a place of cultivation. Of course, short-term cultivation, such as a few months or a few years, is likely feasible for peak true immortals. The two 7th-stage martial Taoists currently had no clear understanding of Lin Yuan's strength, nor the purpose behind his infiltration into the martial temple. Yin spirit and Yang spirit. Li Qing gazed at Lin Yuan, somewhat lost in thought. For hundreds of thousands of years, countless martial Tao cultivators had emerged like carp in a river. And there were many who reached the 5th stage of martial arts and condensed a martial Tao primordial spirit. However, among 5th-rank cultivators with primordial spirits of various forms, Li Qing could only recall one being named the Yin spirit and Yang spirit. The Yin spirit and Yang spirit implied the cultivation of 2 diametrically opposed forces, where a slightest mishap could lead to irrevocable doom. Fusing Yin and Yang to condense the Yin spirit and Yang spirit had only been achieved by Li Qing's master, the ancestor of martial arts, since the inception of martial Tao. By her side, Nia Yun and Shan Yang felt indecisive, uncertain whether to attack or not. If they attacked, the two of them really had no confidence. Shan Yang had just exerted all his strength without being able to move Lin Yuan even slightly. The opponent's strength might not have reached tribulation, but was likely not far off. With their combined strength, even combined with peak 7th rank Li Qing, they wouldn't stand much of a chance, and by attacking they might irreversibly sever all relations. But if they didn't attack? Nia Yun and Shan Yang looked at Li Qing, deciding to leave the decision to Li Zhu. However, when they turned to look at Li Qing, they noticed her expression changing unpredictably, her gaze fixed on Lin Yuan, seemingly hesitant to speak. What's happening? Chapter 460 Born for the Martial Tao. The martial Tao arises because of him. Please subscribe. _2 Nia Yun and Shan Yang were filled with confusion and doubt. Li, after so many years, you haven't changed a bit. Lin Yuan smiled faintly as he looked toward Li Qing and spoke. Upon hearing these words, Li Qing's eyes immediately began to redden, nearly unable to control her emotions, she subconsciously uttered 2 words, Master. It had been tens of thousands of years, only the once Lin Yuan had ever called her that. Li Qing had almost forgotten that she even had such a nickname. Go on. Tell me about what has happened over the years. Lin Yuan casually found a place to sit down. Over the past 100 years, he had been mostly cultivating, although he had obtained a lot of information about the spirit realm and the Taoed Immortal sect through the martial temple. But certainly, none of it was as detailed as what Li Qing, a 7th-stage martial Tao at its peak, knew. The minds of Nia Yun and Shan Yang beside him were once again thrown into chaos. What happened? Why would Li Zhu call Lin Yuan master? Master. The idea that struck both 7th-stage martial Taoists was unbelievable. Li Qing's master was the legendary martial ancestor. Could it be that this young man before them was the martial ancestor, the opener of martial Tao? But how was that possible? Wasn't it said that the martial ancestor had vanished long ago? No need to stand, have a seat. Lin Yuan glanced at Li Qing, Nia Yun, and Shan Yang as he spoke nonchalantly. Instantly, an invisible force emerged. Nia Yun and Shan Yang subconsciously sat down. Li Qing too gently took her seat. This power. Nia Yun and Shan Yang's scalps tingled. In face of this invisible force, they had absolutely no ability to resist. Their pride and their martial Tao vitality seemed as if rendered ineffective. Martial ancestor. That is the martial ancestor. Nia Yun and Shan Yang were shaken to the core. Lin Yuan at this moment gave off a feeling far stronger than Changqing Immortal, from Taoed Immortal sect, who was only half a step away from becoming a tribulation-transcending celestial king. Master. You finally returned. Li Qing's eyes were moist. For hundreds of thousands of years, she never stopped searching for traces of Lin Yuan. The Taoed Immortal sect claimed that Lin Yuan never ascended to the spirit realm from the ascension platform. He may well have broken through the barriers of the lower realms, entering the spirit realm amid the chaos of the void. However, this method of entering the spirit realm was highly uncertain, and one wouldn't typically arrive in Dongyun Tao province, let alone anywhere within the region of the 3,000 Tao provinces. The spirit realm is vast and boundless, with the 3,000 Tao provinces being just a part of it. The rest are mostly desolate areas. Master. Li Zhu's address is Master. The respectfully standing supreme elders were caught in a storm of shock. Even though they had already highly estimated Lin Yuan, they had not foreseen that he would be Li Zhu's master. How could this be? The martial ancestor, Chang Er is the martial ancestor. The great supreme elder's mind trembled. Even though the scene was incredibly unbelievable and Lin Chang's connection to the martial ancestor was incomprehensible, Li Zhu certainly would not deceive them. As the direct disciple of the legendary martial ancestor, Li Qing would surely be well versed about the martial ancestor and would not recognize the wrong person. That I would come to think that Chang Er was born for martial Tao. The great supreme elder's scalp numbed with this evaluation. For any martial Tao cultivator, it was an inner affirmation and acknowledgement. Even hinting at pushing martial Tao to new heights, but if the person was the martial ancestor, it was not flattery. It was profanity. Born for martial Tao. Utterly wrong. The entire martial Tao arose because of the martial ancestor. I encountered some issues, which is why I arrived only now. Lin Yuan offered only a few words to explain experiences spanning hundreds of thousands of years. Li Qing and the 2 others didn't harbor much suspicion. The spirit realm was vast, containing countless mysteries. Even a tribulation-stage celestial king could be trapped for tens or hundreds of thousands of years if they fell into certain traps. As for why martial ancestor returned in the guise of Lin Chang, Li Qing didn't question it much either. Unity Realm true immortals had the means to dissolve their physical form and reincarnate, which was also one of the most powerful life-saving methods for true immortals. Of course, no matter how many times one reincarnates, the lifespan of the soul doesn't increase. True immortals live leisurely for hundreds of thousands of years, but once the limit of a soul's lifespan is reached, reincarnating any number of times is useless. The only way to extend one's lifespan is to attempt the tribulation, to become an immortal king. It's good that Master could come back. Nothing else matters, Li Qing said joyfully. Through this brief exchange, she was fully convinced that the Lin Yuan in front of her was her master, the ancestor of martial arts from the central divine China world. She could tell from his way of speaking and tone. Li Qing rarely divulged anything about Lin Yuan to outsiders, and many habits and ways were known only to her. Master, 6,000 years after you disappeared, I reached the 6th-stage martial Tao following the guidance you left behind, she said. Not long after, I ascended to the spirit realm through the ascension platform of the Taoed Immortal sect. Li Qing began to recount her experiences over the years. After ascending to the spirit realm, Zhangqing Immortal kept his promise, even designating a city specifically for the propagation of martial Tao, Li Qing said, her tone still reflecting some gratitude. Without Zhangqing Immortal, without the early protection of the Taoed Immortal sect, she, a mere 6th-stage martial Taoist on par with the refining void period, would have had to join some power and serve for thousands of years just to stabilize her footing in the spirit realm. It was out of gratitude to Zhangqing Immortal that Li Qing volunteered to join the ranks of Taoed Immortal sect to fight its battles. Of course, the Taoed Immortal sect provided ample compensation, and during the wars between the Xianwang domain and other great realms, Li Qing grew rapidly. Eventually, using one of the 12 pathways to the 7th rank left by Lin Yuan, she chose one to advance to the 7th rank. After stepping into the 7th rank, Li Qing had the right to advance or retreat. As a being on par with a true immortal, she belonged to the absolute upper echelons even within the Taoed Immortal sect. In this way, Li Qing led the martial temple of Xianyao City in an almost cooperative manner with the Taoed Immortal sect, continuing to this day. Li Qing fought for the Taoed Immortal sect while the sect, in return, protected Xianyao City and provided ample compensation. That she could cultivate to the 7th rank peak had much to do with the Taoed Immortal sect. Were you the only disciple to step into the 7th rank? Lin Yuan asked. He remembered taking in hundreds of direct disciples. Several among them had the potential to enter the 7th rank. Just me. Those junior brothers and sisters all fell during their attempts to break through to the 7th rank, Li Qing said, her expression tinged with sorrow. Breaking through to the 7th rank was anything but smooth sailing, especially since Lin Yuan hadn't fully perfected it at the time and had only left behind a conjecture. Lin Yuan himself managed to break through relying on his formidable foundation and his against heaven's understanding, as easily as eating and drinking. But the others? Li Qing was relatively fortunate. With the support of the Taoed Immortal sect, she ultimately had the luck to step into the 7th rank. The others weren't so lucky. In fact, even in the main world, evolvers practicing other evolutionary paths face tremendous risks moving from the 6th to 7th rank. And that was with a complete evolutionary path and guidance from higher rank evolvers. It was even more so in other worlds. These two are my valued disciples in the spirit realm, who later successfully stepped into the 7th rank. Li Qing immediately introduced Nie Yun and Shan Yang. We pay respect to martial ancestor. We pay respect to martial ancestor. Shan Yang and Nie Yun were a bit restrained. They had heard too many legends about martial ancestor from Li Qing since childhood. To them, martial ancestor was nearly mythological, someone who single-handedly opened the martial path evolutionary path, made Taoed Immortal sect yield, and even had Zhangqing Immortal personally negotiate. But now, the martial ancestor that they revered and admired in their hearts had actually appeared before them, naturally stirring up a multitude of feelings. Especially Shan Yang, who had almost come to blows with martial ancestor just a short while ago, felt somewhat fearful inside. Lin Yuan nodded slightly. He didn't differentiate much between these two juniors of martial Tao. As long as they practice martial Tao, they could all be considered his disciples. My elder brother and second sister, and our parents, where are they now? Lin Yuan looked at Li Qing again and asked. Having a high position within the Tao Immortal sect, Li Qing would surely know the whereabouts of Jun Dongjin, Mu Lianer, and others even if she wasn't from the sect's main lineage. Chapter 461 Taiji Rule, Cosmic Force. Please subscribe. Master's parents and relatives did not break through to the Unity Path stage. Li Qing hesitated, then spoke softly. Not having reached the Unity Path stage, and relying on the lifespan of the refining void period, they could live for at most 100 or 200,000 years. It's impossible for them to be alive now, which means they would have passed away long ago. Are they all gone? Lin Yuan, upon hearing this, showed no surprise and sighed inwardly. This was actually the most common outcome. The breakthrough from the 6th stage martial Tao to the 7th stage is immensely difficult, just as the transition from the refining void period to the Unity Path stage is equally challenging. Though Jun Dongjin had a mutated heavenly spiritual root, one of the rarest talents in the central divine China world, it was not so outstanding in the spirit realm. In the spirit realm, apart from judging talents based on spirit roots, many other Tao bodies exist. Jun Dongjin cultivated to the peak of refining void, but ultimately failed in his attempt to reach the Unity Path stage and was severely injured. Mu Lianer did not cultivate to the peak of refining void, and neither did Jun Xiaoyao nor Jun Jilan. With Lin Yuan's contingency plans left behind, they successfully entered refining void and ascended to the spirit realm, but their cultivation progress slowed afterward. How have they been? Lin Yuan inquired. They've been quite well. The Tao Immortal sect has not mistreated them. Li Qing immediately said, not daring to harbor any designs against Jun Dongjin and the others before knowing Lin Yuan's whereabouts. After all, keeping Jun Dongjin and others was not even considered a burden for the vast Tao Immortal sect, and the Tsangqing Immortal even summoned them several times to preach Tao. But transitioning from refining void to unity is not something that can be achieved with just a couple of sermons or by giving enough cultivation resources. Otherwise, everyone in the Tao Immortal sect would be a true immortal, not just the dozens of true immortal anchoring it. Before my parents passed away, they asked me not to give up looking for you, Li Qing spoke with a somewhat heavy voice. What a pity, Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. If he had traveled through time a bit earlier, perhaps the outcome would have been different. In the future, if I can become a supreme being, I might try resurrecting them. Lin Yuan thought silently to himself. Supreme beings wield complete control over time and space rules, able to reverse time and lift previously deceased beings back to life. Before their deaths, Jun Dongjin, Jun Jilan, and the others reached the refining void stage, similar to 6th rank in life essence strength. Even without deliberately merging their life essence with the spirit realm, having lived so long, their essence had already been recorded by the spirit realm. As long as Lin Yuan became a supreme being and arrived in this world, reversing the flow, he should be able to resurrect them. As for their having died of natural lifespan exhaustion, even if resurrected, they would face the limits of their lifespan in a few breaths' time. But Lin Yuan could completely use those few breaths to extend their lifespans. The methods to extend lifespan in the spirit realm are useless, but in the main world, there are plenty. As for the world's backlash after resurrecting a life, reviving a few 6th rank lives and the resulting backlash is trivial for a supreme being. Also, the descendants of Master's elder brother and second sister in the Tao Immortal sect are doing quite well. Li Qing seemed to remember something and promptly spoke. With Lin Yuan's connection, Li Qing, comparable to a 7th stage martial Tao, being a pillar for the Jun family's descendants, as long as Li Qing is alive, it's unlikely that the Jun family's descendants would fare poorly, and that Tsangqing Immortal is also watching. Is that so? Lin Yuan glanced at Li Qing. Master, would you like me to invite a few outstanding descendants from the Jun family to come visit you? Li Qing tentatively asked. That works. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment. After all, having some karma with the Jun family, now that he had returned, meeting them was not a bad idea. All right. Li Qing closed his eyes and began making contact immediately. As a major general for Dao Immortal sect and external campaigns, Li Qing naturally had ways to directly communicate with the Dao Immortal sect. About Master's news, should we keep it hidden? After conveying the message, Li Qing cautiously asked, Changqing Immortal once told me that if there's any news of Master, I must tell him immediately. The Changqing Immortal is still alive. Lin Yuan was interested. This old fellow's performance still quite satisfied him, at least he didn't kick him when he was down when he wasn't around. According to the information Lin Yuan had, since the days in the central divine China world, the Changqing Immortal had already lived for several 100,000 years. With hundreds of thousands of years passing by, even a Unity Realm true Immortal at its peak probably should have expired. The Changqing Immortal transcended the heart demon tribulation, so he has a much longer lifespan than a normal true Immortal, Li Qing immediately replied. To advance from Unity stage to Tribulation Transcendent stage, an Immortal cultivator needs to transcend two tribulations. One is the bodily tribulation. Another is the heart-spirit tribulation. The latter is similar to the heart-demon tribulation. For an Immortal cultivator, the most difficult to transcend is the bodily tribulation. Most methods of the Immortal cultivator do not focus on the body. Faced with the 5 declines of man during bodily tribulation, bodily decay, there are hardly any ways to resist. I see, Lin Yuan nodded. A Unity Realm true Immortal who had passed through the heart-spirit tribulation, although still far from a tribulation transcending celestial king, had their spirit soul and will transformed. Their soul's lifespan was significantly extended. And for a true Immortal, a decaying body can simply be replaced. As long as the soul lives on, they can be regarded as immortal. No need to hide it, Lin Yuan said calmly. Hide it? Why hide it? Now that Lin Yuan had fully regained his strength and even advanced further, even among tribulation transcending celestial kings, he was considered an extraordinary powerhouse, not inferior to a supreme immortal king. Under such circumstances, there was absolutely no need to hide. Chapter 462 Taiji Rule, Cosmic Force. Please subscribe, _2, yes. Li Qing responded. After chatting with Li Qing for a few more moments, Lin Yuan turned towards the other two who were sitting upright, Nie Yun and Shan Yang. These two martial Dao 7th rank cultivators were the promising new talents in the martial Tao cultivation system. They had managed to step into the 7th rank with the guidance left by Lin Yuan. Their martial talents were indisputably remarkable. You haven't received my guidance before, which is indeed not easy. Inside the jade slip is my refined understanding of the 7th rank cultivation, which should be of help to you. Lin Yuan's mind stirred, and 2 white jade slips appeared in front of Nie Yun and Shan Yang. These two cultivators, in their 7th rank cultivation, had not gone deep, although they had stepped onto the path of the 7th rank, which Lin Yuan considered misleading. But there was still a chance for them to reshape their paths. As for you, Lin Yuan turned to Li Qing. Li Qing was already at the peak of the 7th rank, reshaping her martial foundation was not a simple matter. However, Lin Yuan had already formulated an idea, and merely by observing Li Qing for a while, his against heaven's understanding allowed him to create a suitable method for her to reshape her cultivation. Against heaven's understanding, depending on the heights Lin Yuan reached, who was now at the 8th layer mid-period, creating a mere 7th rank reshaping method hardly wasted any effort. Thank you, Master. Li Qing expressed her immense gratitude. After reaching the peak of the 7th rank, she faintly sensed that there seemed to be no path ahead. If nothing unexpected occurred, she would likely stop at this point in her life. She was not a martial ancestor with earth-shattering talent who could create possibilities in the impossible. Li Qing's ability to step into the 7th rank was due not only to luck but also significantly to the instruction left by Lin Yuan. Nia Yun and Shan Yang left the martial temple hall with stirring emotions. Martial ancestor. They had actually met the legendary martial ancestor today. And the strength of the martial ancestor, to say nothing of comparing with the tribulation-transcending celestial king, was at least much stronger than that of the Zhangqing immortal of the Dao Immortal sect who was half-step into the tribulation-transcendent stage. Our martial Dao can also give birth to such powerful figures. Shan Yang was invigorated, and he returned to his dwelling with Nia Yun, unable to calm down for a long time. The existence of the martial ancestors showed them that martial Dao was not a dead end, like the immortal path. It was also a great avenue to the heavens. Right. The jade slipped from the martial ancestor. Nia Yun seemed to remember something and reminded him. Of course, it was only a possibility, and in fact, he was likely still doomed to fail in breaking through. But at least it would have lightened the backlash, allowing him to live for several hundred more years. Above the spirit realm. From high to low, there were 9 heavens. Each heaven contained some kind of phenomenon, either a manifestation of the origin rule of the great Tao or a sort of miracle related to the essence of the world. The 4th heaven. A figure, seeming like a burning sun, stood with his back to all. It was indeed Lin Yuan's Taiyang divine spirit. With my current strength, I can only stop at the 4th heaven. As for the 5th heaven, Lin Yuan looked up at the sky, where dark clouds gathered densely, intertwined with numerous pale purple thunderbolts. To enter the 5th heaven, one must surpass the 9-fold thunder tribulation, which is far more terrifying than the bodily tribulation and the unity breakthrough to tribulation transcendence. Although Unity Realm true immortals can roam the 9 layers of the spirit realm, such powerful beings usually only wander in the 1st and 2nd heavens. As for the 3rd heaven, they basically can't enter, and the 4th heaven is the domain of tribulation transcending celestial kings. The 5th heaven. Probably only the powerful among the immortal kings can withstand the 9-fold thunder tribulation and enter. The Taiyang divine spirit, after all, is just a divine spirit, far less powerful than its original body, unless Taiyin and Taiyang are merged into the Taiji divine spirit. Otherwise, recklessly enduring the 9-fold thunder tribulation risks the collapse of the divine spirit. Enough. Wait a bit longer. I can feel that the fusion and transformation of the Taiyin rule and Taiyang rule are almost complete. When the time comes, my body of the divine spirit will surely see a great increase in combat power. Lin Yuan felt hopeful in his heart. Ever since he reopened his inner world, the Taiyin rule had merged with the Taiyang rule, forming a light sphere suspended above the sky of the inner world, slowly transforming. Lin Yuan had a feeling that once the transformation was complete, the Taiyin and Taiyang rules would undergo an unbelievable change. Inside the cave dwelling, Lin Yuan was cultivating. At that moment, Lin Yuan quietly opened his eyes. Whoosh! Inner world. The incarnation of Lin Yuan's consciousness appeared. He looked up at the light sphere composed entirely of the power of Taiyin and Taiyang. At that moment, Lin Yuan felt a stirring in his heart, vaguely sensing that the transformation within the light sphere was reaching its final stages. Crack! A shattering sound, audible only to Lin Yuan, suddenly rang beside his ears. He saw the light sphere above the sky gradually cracking open. Threads of new power, or rather, rules, slowly began to reveal themselves. This power was black and white. At first glance, it seemed no different from before, but at the infinitely microscopic level, it was the same. This meant a complete fusion. The newly born power or rules were no longer a combination of Taiyin and Taiyang but inherently so. The flawless power of yin and yang transformed into the perfect taiji power, quickly merging into the inner world. This, Lin Yuan's consciousness returned to reality. He raised his right hand, the pure yin-yang power emitting a dreamlike halo, slowly affecting the surroundings. At this moment, Lin Yuan felt an absolute sense of control. Within his range of perception, he could control everything. This feeling, how similar is it to the cosmic force of the invincible eighth layer? Lin Yuan's eyes brightened. The invincible power of the eighth layer in the main world, although not replicable, had some features recorded. Almost all the cosmic forces comprehended by those invincible at the eighth layer had one thing in common. That is control. Absolute control. The fusion of Tai-Yin and Tai-Yang into Taiji, is it the embryonic form of some kind of cosmic force? Lin Yuan felt elated, and at this moment, even without relying on the inner world that spans 26 million miles, without relying on his many innate divine abilities and secret techniques, he could still clash with other invincible beings of the eighth layer. Because he was now an invincible of the eighth layer. Chapter 463 LL are provisions. Please subscribe. Who would have thought that the cosmic force that countless eighth-layer powerhouses in the main world yearn for, I actually grasped its rudimentary form during my third rank and fourth rank. Lin Yuan couldn't help but feel emotional in his heart. The so-called cosmic force not only enhances combat power for eighth-layer powerhouses. In the future, if one could step into the ninth rank or even higher, the transformation of cosmic force would be even greater. For eighth-layer evolvers to comprehend cosmic force, regardless of whether they can succeed, it would undoubtedly take a considerable amount of time, possibly tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. But the cosmic force comprehended at the eighth-layer level, besides the enhancement in combat power, does not help much in breaking through to the ninth layer. Yet, in the main world, there are still a great number of powerhouses of various clans who wish to walk the path of the invincible at the eighth layer. This seems quite incredible, for after all, spending this time on fusion rules might give one a better chance of stepping into the ninth layer. In fact, if one can comprehend cosmic force at the eighth layer, should they be able to break through to the ninth layer in the future, they would be able to walk further along the ninth layer's path. Unfortunately, among eighth-layer powerhouses, those who have comprehended cosmic force are too few. And even among those eighth-layer individuals who have comprehended cosmic force, the number that eventually step into the ninth layer is even rarer. Out of tens of thousands of eighth-layer powerhouses, it is considered extremely lucky if one who comprehends cosmic force manages to step into the ninth layer. My Taiji force, Lin Yuan carefully felt his own cosmic force. The transformed Taiji force was no longer divided into Tai-Yin and Tai-Yang. It seemed innate and flawless. They all say that cosmic force cannot be replicated. My Taiji force, Lin Yuan reflected inwardly before finally shaking his head. This statement is essentially correct. Lin Yuan's Taiji force is derived from the fusion of Tai-Yin and Tai-Yang. Even if, in future generations, a martial Dao cultivator with supreme talent in Tai-Yin and Tai-Yang emerges, just like Lin Yuan, mastering both Tai-Yin and Tai-Yang. It's debatable whether they could fuse Tai-Yin and Tai-Yang, and even if they truly managed to do so, the power formed would most likely not be Taiji force. Lin Yuan's Taiji force was not created with equal proportions of Tai-Yin and Tai-Yang, but rather adjusted according to his own adaptability. Only then did the new Taiji force come into being. Future martial Dao cultivators, even if they fuse Tai-Yin and Tai-Yang, the force they create will not be Lin Yuan's Taiji force. With my current strength, unleashing full power, I should be able to easily suppress other invincible eighth layers, but to say defeat or even kill, Lin Yuan thought about it for a while and felt it was unrealistic. After grasping the Taiji force, Lin Yuan's understanding of such cosmic force deepened even further. Even if Lin Yuan used all his trump cards, at most he could only suppress. Forcing the opponent to flee would be difficult to achieve. Take Lin Yuan's Taiji force as an example. Once he fully defended, it was almost invulnerable to myriad laws. Even 10 invincible 8th layers might not be able to break through the defense. This is why in the main world, those 8th layer powerhouses who have comprehended some kind of cosmic force are called invincible. This is the legend of the invincible at the 8th layer. Take it slow. I feel that there is still much room for refinement in my Taiji force. Lin Yuan's thoughts converged. In the main world, those invincible at the 8th layer who have comprehended cosmic force tend not to continue exploring it but focus all their energy on the fusion rules instead. Having already spent a tremendous amount of time comprehending cosmic force, to continue wasting time, the hope of breaking through to the 9th layer becomes even more bleak. Without breaking through to the 9th layer, even an invincible 8th layer won't have a longer lifespan than those at the peak of the 8th layer. The 9 heavens. The 4th heaven. Lin Yuan's Taiyang divine spirit and Taiyin primordial spirit appeared simultaneously. They immediately began to merge. The flawless Taiji primordial spirit reappeared. Compared to the previous Taiji primordial spirit, this one was purer and had a more stable influence on space. Lin Yuan even faintly felt that time was also slightly affected. This sensation. Lin Yuan looked around. In Xianyao City, even though Lin Yuan had grasped the Taiji force, a kind of cosmic force, he wouldn't attempt anything risky for fear that a slight mishap might lay waste to the entire city. But here within the 9 heavens, there were no such concerns. The 9 heavens were vast and boundless, each layer as large as the spirit realm, and here the spirit realm refers not to the 3,000 Dao provinces, but to the entirety of the spirit realm. Moreover, due to environmental reasons, only true immortal level powerhouses could hope to ascend to the 9 heavens, and even then, only to the 1st and 2nd layers. In the vast expanse of the 9 heavens, unless by specific arrangement, it is very difficult to encounter another person. Therefore, Lin Yuan could act without any worries here. Boom! Terrible power began to spread in all directions. The full eruption of Taiji force was like a primordial beast, wildly stirring everything in the 4th heaven. What a thrill! Lin Yuan laughed out loud, finally understanding the confidence of those invincible at the 8th layer in the main world. This power that reigns above the 8th layer can easily become addictive. The strength of my current Taiji primordial spirit is not lesser than that of an invincible 8th layer, and due to the nature of being an energy and spirit body, it is much more troublesome than ordinary invincible 8th layers. Lin Yuan had an accurate assessment of his primordial spirit. The primordial spirit is not corporeal, unable to benefit from the augmentation of the mysterious gourd to the inner world, but it also has the advantage of the primordial spirit, which is immunity to most physical damage. And since the primordial spirit is an ethereal body, it is elusive and unpredictable. In the main world, those invincible beings of energy life at the 8th layer are more dreaded than ordinary invincible 8th layers. Chapter 464 LLR Provisions. Please subscribe, _2, continue to explore the true limit of the power of Taiji. Lin Yuan struck out recklessly, and the terrifying wave of force began to shake the entire 4th heaven and even affected the 3rd and 2nd heavens below. 9 heavens. 2nd layer of heaven. A peak Dao integration true immortal was leisurely roaming this layer of heaven with a descendant he cherished. The 9 divine heavens of the spirit realm are extremely special, often visited by true immortal level powerhouses. Occasionally, they bring their progeny. For beings below true immortals, experiencing the mysteries of the 9 heavens is a great opportunity and fortune. In the 2nd layer of heaven, some spectacles and phenomena often appear. Tomorrow, observe carefully and commit it to memory. This will be greatly beneficial for your future cultivation path, said the peak Dao integration true immortal, a white-browed elder, chuckling as he stroked his beard. Understood, ancestor. replied a young disciple, swallowing nervously as he tried to look around and memorize everything he saw. After a while, Ancestor, this 9 heavens is really huge, isn't it? The disciple couldn't help but exclaim. The 9 divine heavens of the spirit realm are vast and boundless. This is just the 2nd heaven, above are the 3rd and 4th heavens, the peak Tao integration true immortal patiently explained. However, only those at the half-step tribulation stage can attempt to climb to the 3rd heaven, and as for the 4th heaven, it is the realm of tribulation transcending celestial kings, the white-browed elder sighed. Although he was at the peak of Tao integration, the tribulation stage was still far beyond his reach. The mental tribulation and bodily tribulation were 2 significant barriers that obstructed countless true immortals. The white-browed elder was lost in thought for a moment and was about to speak again when his expression suddenly changed. What is that? The white-browed elder looked up. It was the area of the 3rd layer of heaven. At that moment, a terrifying fluctuation was traveling from the 3rd heaven to the 2nd heaven. Like the drums of the divine, mighty and powerful, the clouds of the 2nd heaven dispersed and the space constantly rippled. This? The white-browed elder's face showed shock. In the 9 heavens, even a true immortal peak powerhouse like himself could at best affect an area of 10,000 miles, but now? Merely the aftershock of a force was penetrating down to the 2nd heaven. Ancestor, is there a half-step immortal king making a move in the 3rd heaven? The disciple by his side trembled, and if not for the protection of the white-browed elder, he would probably have been scared into sitting on the ground. The aftershock of a higher layer's power swept down like divine might. It's not the 3rd heaven, it's a higher layer than the 3rd heaven. The white-browed elder carefully sensed for a while, his face slightly pale. As a peak true immortal, although he couldn't climb to the 3rd heaven, he could still judge the source of the aftershocks. A higher layer than the 3rd heaven. The young disciple was confused for a moment. That must mean an immortal king, at least a tribulation-transcending celestial king, is making a move. The white-browed elder spoke with difficulty, and in his heart, he had another speculation. Transmitting aftershocks to another layer was not something an ordinary immortal king could do. It might even be the famed supreme immortal king. In my lifetime, to see a supreme immortal king making a move. The white-browed elder was emotionally stirred. As a peak true immortal who had traveled 3,000 daos for many ages, he had a chance to witness a tribulation-transcending celestial king. But a supreme immortal king. That was the transcendent among celestial kings. Most true immortals never saw one in their lifetime. Xianwang Domain. Dowd Immortal Sect. Li Zhu sent me a message, a no-nonsense-looking woman said, her face changing slightly as she looked towards her 2 peers. Li Zhu. Li Zhu's personality means he wouldn't contact us without something important, she said. Quickly check, could it be something unexpected has happened with the war against Huilong Palace? The 2 peers realized the gravity of the situation. The 3 of them were the most outstanding descendants of Jun Xiaoyao. They were Jun Haiqiu, Jun Nangong, and Jun Yunxuan. In the spirit realm's Dowd Immortal sect, the Mu family was a relatively strong lineage, but the Jun family, at least until people like Jun Dongjin ascended, there was no Jun family. After hundreds of thousands of years, with the efforts of the Jun family lineage and the support of Li Qing, the Jun family managed to establish itself in the Immortal sect. I'll check now. Jun Haiqiu immediately opened the message from Li Qing. He quickly skimmed through it. Li Zhu says, Jun Haiqiu paused, somewhat unsure how to proceed. You all take a look. Jun Haiqiu expanded the message. Jun Nangong and Jun Yunxuan quickly read through it. An ancestor from our Jun family has returned. This ancestor, the youngest son of the founder of the East Jin, and the founder of the martial Tao cultivation system. The 3 of them from Jun Haiqiu's group were stunned. From a young age, they had heard numerous rumors about this Wuji ancestor. It was said that this Wuxia ancestor had exceptional talent and had even negotiated with the Zhangqing Immortal. Today, the position of the Jun family in the Immortal sect was mainly due to the efforts of this Wuxia ancestor. Without the Wuxia ancestor, the Jun family would not be where it was today. They might not even have ascended from the lower realms in the first place. Wuxia ancestor, he has returned. Jun Nangong's expression was somewhat excited. It had been tens of thousands of years, and the ancestors of the Jun family had never given up searching for Wuxia ancestor. Even the Dao Immortal sect was searching, but there had never been any news. Many elders of the Jun family even thought that Wuxia ancestor might have died long ago. Otherwise, how could there have been no sign of him for so many years? Let's go. We will meet Wuxia ancestor now. The longing of my father, my mother, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, the desire of our Jun family's ancestors, has actually been realized in our generation. Jun Yunxuan was equally stirred. Li Qing's search for Wuxia ancestor was a search for his own mentor. The Zhangqing Immortal's search for Wuxia ancestor also had other purposes. Only their Jun family sought Wuxia ancestor from the bottom of their hearts. Since the progenitor Jun Dongjin, they always treated searching for Wuxia ancestor as the ultimate goal. The martial temple is starting to accept disciples on a large scale. Anyone from the human race can be admitted to the martial temple. Upon entering the martial temple, one can receive the teachings of the martial Tao cultivation system. Even those on the immortal path can be admitted to the martial temple. Within Xianyao City, a message spread like a hurricane. Previously, the martial temple had been very strict about accepting disciples, but now, they had relaxed this restriction. Hurry, hurry, hurry. There are free martial Tao teachings being given away. It's said that the 7th stage martial Tao is not inferior to a true immortal of the merged path. The martial Tao cultivation system must have exceptional aspects. Figures quickly lined up outside the martial temple, whispering amongst themselves. Why is the martial temple doing this? Did the 3 ancestors of the martial temple return recently? Could this be their idea? I don't think so. Over such a long period, even when the 3 ancestors were present, the rules of the martial temple hardly changed. Now this sudden relaxation must be due to something unknown happening. Who cares? As long as there are martial Tao teachings being given out, I have nothing to lose. Martial Temple Hall. Lin Yuan sat in the main seat, his gaze sweeping across and taking in all of Xianyao City. Master, is it really okay to release the martial Tao teachings so freely? Li Qing stood respectfully on one side, cautiously inquiring. It's fine. Lin Yuan said nonchalantly. He wanted to spread the martial arts evolution system thoroughly in this realm. Relying solely on the small area of the martial temple, it would be impossible even with 1,000,000 years. Therefore, Lin Yuan decided to release the martial Tao teachings. Of course, these released teachings from the martial temple had been modified by Lin Yuan to enhance one's strength in a short amount of time. For the lower-level cultivators, whether it's the immortal path or martial Tao, or even other cultivation systems, the most crucial aspect is short-term effectiveness. Even for the great Tao, if one cannot get started and it does not bring any improvement, then it is meaningless. As for releasing the martial Tao teachings widely, which might lead to a mix of good and bad cultivators and even result in little loyalty to the martial temple, Lin Yuan did not care. In the myriad realms of the heavens, as long as one entered his martial Tao, no matter the thought process, all would be fodder for the future ultimate leap. Chapter 465 Where is Huilong Palace? Give me a direction, please subscribe, Zhejiang Domain. Huilong Palace. As a force of the Dao integration level, Huilong Palace was in no way weaker than the Dao Immortal sect, and even surpasses it due to being part of the Water Tribe's dragon heritage. The true immortal level combat power of Huilong Palace was even stronger than that of the Dao Immortal sect. Why Dragon Hole? Dozens of figures gathered here. Huailong Palace was not a human race force, but was governed by the water tribe of dragon descent, with the entire Zhejiang domain essentially being their territory. My fellow members, I have decided that our palace will once again initiate large-scale warfare with the Daoed Immortal sect. That heavenly essence of water must belong to our Huailong Palace, declared the Huailong Palace Master. The Huailong Palace Master was a middle-aged female whose true form was that of a mighty dragon. Although her bloodline had not reached the level of true spirit, her combat power was so formidable that she had virtually no rivals in the Unity Path stage. The heavenly essence of water is a treasure of our dragon clan, forcibly occupied by that Daoed Immortal sect. This time, we must reclaim it, she proclaimed. Palace Master, I shall partake in this large-scale decisive battle as well. I am determined to slay several true immortals of the Daoed Immortal sect, an eager voice joined the conversation. Without relying on Xianwang Hall, would the Daoed Immortal sect stand a chance against our Eastern Palace? Another chimed in. The assembled figures vied to voice their opinions first. A so-called large-scale war meant an all-out battle to the death between Huailong Palace and the Daoed Immortal sect, where each true immortal would enter the fray, and neither force would show any mercy. Such large-scale bloodshed would normally not occur once in tens or hundreds of thousands of years, due to the enormous cost involved. No matter who won, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Xianwang Hall would never just watch the Daoed Immortal sect fall without intervening. Xianwang Hall. Humph. The Huailong Palace Master let out a cold snort. In past large-scale wars, the interference of Xianwang Hall had prevented her from crushing the Daoed Immortal sect. But now, the Huailong Palace Master had already overcome the bodily tribulation, significantly boosting her combat power, and ordinary half-step immortal kings did not even warrant her attention. Even before overcoming the bodily tribulation, with her true dragon bloodline, she could match a half-step immortal king in strength. Now that she had become a half-step immortal king, it would probably take 3 or 4 of them to match her. This time, Huailong Palace was resolute in obtaining the heavenly essence of water. The heavenly essence of water had a significant effect on the dragon descendants' transformation into dragons. If Huailong Palace could acquire the heavenly essence of water, their power could rise to a new level in at most 10,000 years. It could even have a considerable beneficial effect on the Huailong Palace Master when facing the ordeal of the mind and spirit tribulation. Normally, a true immortal of the Tao integration stage would have a greater guarantee of overcoming the mind and spirit tribulation than the bodily tribulation. However, being a dragon descendant, the Huailong Palace Master with her strong bodily constitution, had an easier time overcoming the bodily tribulation. The ordeal of the mind and spirit tribulation, on the other hand, required much more cautiousness. Daoed Immortal Sect. Sangxing Immortal sat upon the high platform. What is Huailong Palace scheming now? Sangxing Immortal's brow furrowed as he received intelligence from the battlefield that the true immortal-level forces of Huailong Palace were beginning to converge towards the battleground. Could it be that they are contemplating another large-scale decisive battle? Sangxing Immortal felt a headache coming on. Even with the support from Xianwang Hall, facing Huailong Palace Hall's repeated battles had begun taking a toll on the Daoed Immortal sect. Xianwang Hall, the most powerful force in the Xianwang domain, along with another major force, stood with the Daoed Immortal sect as the 3 leading giants of the Xianwang domain. The heavenly essence of water, Sangxing Immortal thought of the source of the unending conflicts between the Daoed Immortal sect and Huailong Palace. Indeed, the heavenly essence of water was not very useful for the human race cultivators. Yet even if it were useless, it absolutely could not fall into the hands of Huailong Palace. Sangxing Immortal could imagine that once Huailong Palace acquired the heavenly essence of water, their power would surge within 10,000 years, surpassing the Xianwang domain to become the strongest force among the nearby dozens of great realms. At that time, the Daoed Immortal sect would stand no chance against Huailong Palace. The heavenly essence of water is rooted in the earth's veins, it cannot be moved, it cannot be destroyed, Sangqing Immortal sighed softly. Even if he could shatter the heavenly essence of water by force with a treasure, as long as the earth's veins remained, a new heavenly essence of water would be born within a few thousand years. If Huailong Palace dares to launch a large-scale war, they must have a new trump card. Has that Huailong Palace master overcome the bodily tribulation? Sangqing Immortal speculated. The Daoist Immortal sect had been at war with Huailong Palace for hundreds of thousands of years, and knew its adversary well. The Huailong Palace master had exhibited clues of being close to passing the bodily tribulation during her last exchange with Sangqing Immortal. A true dragon who has overcome the bodily tribulation. I cannot handle her alone, better inquire about the intentions of Xian Wangho. Sangqing Immortal was no fool and naturally would not take on the pressure of blocking Huailong Palace by himself. A moment later. After communicating with Xian Wangho, Sangqing Immortal's frown deepened again. The master of Xian Wangho is in seclusion and cannot intervene in the short term. How am I supposed to deal with that accursed dragon? Sangqing Immortal immediately felt the difficulty of the situation. I must contact other forces at the Dao integration level across different domains. Sangqing Immortal's thoughts refocused, turning his attention to another piece of news. Oh. Jun Wuji, that young fellow has returned. Sangqing Immortal's eyes brightened. He had waited arduously for Jun Wuji, originally thinking the young man would ascend to the spirit realm within a few thousand years, but hundreds of thousands of years had passed without any signs. Yet Sangqing Immortal had not reneged on his promise because of this. After all, they had made a vow on the Dao. While breaking a Dao vow wasn't impossible, it came with heavy consequences, and to break such a vow for a mere promise was not worth the loss for Sangqing Immortal. Hundreds of thousands of years. If that kid is still alive, he must be at least at the peak of the Unity realm. Perhaps even a half-step Immortal King. Sangqing Immortal mused to himself. He was well aware of Lin Yuan's potential. Taking into account Lin Yuan's forced breakthrough into the Dao integration stage in such a low world, he could at least be considered an Immortal King seed. Chapter 466 Where is Huailong Palace? Give me a direction, please subscribe, _2 of course. Even for an Immortal King seed, stepping into the realm of an Immortal King is extremely difficult. Having hope is one thing, but Sangqing Immortal didn't believe that Lin Yuan was already a tribulation-transcending celestial king. From the Unity Path stage to the Transcendence Tribulation stage, it is as vast as the heavens. Sangqing Immortal had a deep understanding of this. Despite having overcome the mind and spirit tribulation and ranking as a half-step Immortal King, he knew deep down that there was no possibility of him becoming an Immortal King in this lifetime. At most, before the end of his lifespan, Sangqing Immortal could attempt to transcend the bodily tribulation. Even if he failed, it would be within expectations. However, if this young one has already reached the half-step Immortal King, wouldn't that relieve some pressure off Huailong Palace? Suddenly, an idea struck Sangqing Immortal. When he had negotiated with Lin Yuan, he agreed to allow the spread of martial Tao in the lower realms, and that martial Dao cultivators who reached the 6th rank could ascend to the spirit realm via the Ascension platform, as well as receive protection. In return, Lin Yuan would help the Daoist Immortal sect once within his capabilities. Of course, Lin Yuan could refuse, and Sangqing Immortal was quite lenient about this, as, after all, he had not given much. So be it. It has been a long time since I went out. This time I'll go see how that young one from back then is doing. Sangqing Immortal slowly stood up, and his figure disappeared from its original spot. As for the large-scale decisive battle that Huailong Palace wanted to initiate, a battlefield of such scale required a lot of preparation time. It would not start within at least 10 years. Xianyao City, Martial Temple. The silhouette of Sangqing Immortal appeared silently. lifting the restrictions on martial Tao. Cangxing Immortal glanced at the recent happenings inside Xianyao City and generally grasped the situation. Step by step, Cangxing Immortal walked towards the depths of the martial temple. Around him lingered layers of illusionary realms. As a half-step immortal king who had passed the mind and spirit tribulation, if Cangxing Immortal wished, it would be difficult for even someone at the 7th stage martial Tao peak like Li Qing to detect his presence. Having passed the mind and spirit tribulation, Cangxing Immortal had greatly enhanced his soul, easily concealing and twisting others' perceptions. Seems like there's no change. Has that young one really returned? Cangxing Immortal arrived at the martial temple hall, looked around casually, and didn't notice anything out of the ordinary.